Second level, on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Where we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your host, Eitan Shander.
Well, we inch our way closer to the return of school, I think, for teachers and kids after spring break this past week. And for the rest of us, it's just everything has merged together. And every now and again, you get a break from normalcy. And normalcy for us has completely changed. It's shifted. It's 180 now on its back to just being at home. That's normal for us. A normal day is staying at home 20 to 24 hours and maybe walking your dog or just walking outside, even standing outside, anywhere close to your building. Of course, ideally not going somewhere. But every now and again, you get that break. You get something new, something fresh. And if you're like me, you're taking extra and extreme precautions when anything comes to the house, no matter what. If it's groceries or a package from Amazon, usually one of the same, whatever. But it doesn't mean you're not getting things, and maybe there are essentials and maybe not. So I've got pretty big news in my world, in my life, that I'm going to share that I can't tonight, unfortunately, but you'll hear all about it, I promise, on the network tomorrow. And I thought to myself, all right, well, let's step things up, because I have this headset, which is a very nice, fine piece of equipment that I like, that I enjoy, and I use for remote broadcasts, which technically, even though I'm in my studio in Philadelphia, I'm on right now as everything is out of Houston. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to step it up even more so, because this thing, everything around me, from the content presentation, everything needs to be on the next level, not second level, higher than that. So I went out, tax write-off, of course, and copped this pretty nasty Shure mic. But of course, I don't have the right arm. I don't have the right stand to use it. So I'm back to being a 14, 13-year-old kid, getting that toy, getting that piece of electronics that I wanted, but there are no batteries. And there aren't any batteries in the piece of machine. There aren't any batteries in the damn house. I'm screwed.
And Jay Farner
Duct tape. I can't do that.
Challenging times we're all experiencing. Our top
That's frustrating.
Is the health.
This thing is nasty too.
That's the mic you just put on Twitter a few minutes ago, right?
Yes.
The best.
That is a nice mic too.
Oh man, I cannot wait for this fucking thing. And now I have to.
Every time, no exceptions, no excuses, exists.
But I need a certain type of arm for
We
it.
understand that hardships may arrive.
And that's probably hard to come by until like non-essential businesses can open back up.
It's with your mortgage.
Yeah, my shit is kind of like on the back end now.
Rocketmortgage.com.
Well, what about Best Buy or maybe one of those like audio places like Guitar Center? Oh, I'm
not trying to go out. That's the thing. I mean, I could get it from Amazon, but the problem is I need to know the type of arm on this thing now.
Gotcha.
So that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know the type of arm that I need for this thing, because the one that I have won't fit it. The one that I have is too budget.
Timeshare contract with the help of Timeshare Compliance.
Unbelievable. And everybody's using this thing. Is using this for live performance stuff. So they're using these big stands.
Saving you thousands. So whether you're a victim of a high-pressure, dishonest sales agent, or you were misled with what you were buying, or you
actually see it right there in your hand.
Yeah, this thing is.
Compliance now for a free consultation.
I'm just scrolling through the comments to see what kind of arm people use, or maybe I can find it on a shop.
I like that comment, duct tape.
I know, right?
You could save thousands.
Duct tape.
You get that Flex Seal.
I have Flex Seal.
A+ rated by the better.
This Flex Seal, it's just some stand and it'll work.
I just put it together.
100-718-29.
A makeshift mic.
100-718-2963.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Message data rates may apply.
Everybody's bragging about the mic.
The big hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out,
What the hell
once
is
you hit
this?
40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive.
I don't know if I'll ever find it.
Get Nugenix. All you have to do is send one simple text.
I'm not getting a boom mic stand, although that's probably the best thing to get.
321 to get a
I just need one of these shitty arms, you know?
The selling free testosterone.
That's
I
all.
know exactly what you mean.
Its unique man boosting formula is powered by Testofen.
First mic I ever used was a Snowball, and then I'm trying to go up from there.
More energetic and more passionate. And guys,
38258
she'll like the difference too. Nugenix samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text MAIN
That's what
to
I'm missing is the adapter.
321. That's
That sucker's long gone.
MAIN to 321.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
It's just going to be on my nerves now. I don't know. It was always that way for me. If I got something that I couldn't directly use and I had to wait, especially if it was right. I remember this is a long time ago. I think the Nintendo, not even the Super Nintendo, but the Nintendo came with 2 games, right? Didn't it come with Mario Brothers and that god-awful thing where you had the robot and it had to pick up the disc and move?
Rob.
Was it? That's what it was called, Jack? Rob?
Yeah, it was like an acronym. It was like ROB.
Right.
I don't remember the actual name, but he's a character in Smash Bros.
Rob. Yep. And there you go. Ball316 on Twitch, and you can follow along if you're not. Twitch.tv/Shander Show. Rob the Robot. There you go. Duck Hunt. Yes, I'm sorry. It wasn't. I thought Mario Brothers was included, but I think you're right. It was Duck Hunt and Rob the Robot.
Didn't it come with a little gun too?
Well, yeah, that you had to buy the gun, right, as an accessory, like you had to buy the Rob the Robot thing. Otherwise, you were screwed. And right now, I'm out of batteries. All I have is the Nintendo with nothing else. And you know what? This is not an easy find either. Like, this sucker is heavy. If you're watching on Twitch, you can see this. Like, this thing is a heavy piece of machinery. Yeah, you had to buy the power set. That's what it was called. Mario and Duck Hunt on one cart, the gun, the controllers, right. So you had to run that whole thing in its entirety. And now I'm just sitting here, and you're probably thinking like, all right, what the hell is he talking about? Some first world problem. Who the hell cares, Shander? And it's not like, of course, that we've got a ton of things going on live that we need to update you on. One, though, I do need to figure out because I had odds on it, and it was supposed to tip off at 5 o'clock. Before we get to that, and that's, of course, the major Happy Easter Lakewood Church event that I personally missed because I was having Easter dinner with my immediate family here in Philadelphia. So I was unable to see it kick off at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So, we're an hour and 15 minutes into it. Some things have happened since. But this thing, you'll notice, like, it will make a major difference in how I sound. And don't you want that? I mean, some of you are thinking, well, cool. I'm enjoying the program. That's fine. This guy's going to sound even better quality. The rest of you are thinking, I can barely tolerate him. I'm waiting for Creighton to come on anyway, so I might as well just leave the radio in the background. This is going to make it easier. This is going to make it easier to tolerate me. Either way, it's a win-win situation. And I was really ready to just blast off tonight. If you saw the tweet at Shander Show ahead of time, I might just jack into the box in the break and hold it and talk into it old school. Like I'm just sitting back, inside the actor's studio and talking into the mic. You wouldn't even know the difference unless you're watching, of course. And even then, who cares? It's not like we're doing this here for any smoke and mirrors. That's why we have the camera on the entire time. That's why you can follow along twitch.tv/Shander Show the whole time. So yesterday, the show was derailed due to our good buddy, John McMullen. But there was a question that I threw out ahead of time because I wanted to get some thoughts on this about just how much TV you're truly watching and to the extent of it. Meaning, I get it that whenever you're in a situation like this, which is rare, I understand that you're locked down, but I mean, away maybe, and you're away for like 3 or 4 days, a 4-day weekend, and it's pouring out and you can't leave. So you're binge watching a show, or you're home sick for a couple of days, or, things like that, where you're basically watching or able to binge watch a stretch of television without any real responsibilities. For me, it was like back in the day, a video game would come out and you would just be like, all right, don't talk to me for the next new Fallout's coming out. Don't talk to me for the next week. And, you burn through it. Same thing with Red Dead. The second Red Dead comes out. And I purposely blocked off. I think I took off a day of work. You can go back. I don't even know where I was at. I might have been at 97.5 at the time when it came out. I can't remember where I was, but I do know that for the first time in like 2 years, I said, all right, I'm not sick, but I still need a day off. And people are like, are you okay? Did you get fired? Like, what the hell happened? Little did they know, or would they know? But still, I sat there and I think played that game for maybe 48 of 50 straight hours and crushed it, ran through it, loved it, enjoyed it. And then it was such a fast play for me because I had that time allocated. It was such an incredible run that I burned through so fast that I came back and was like, wait a second. I even said this, that game felt short. It felt short to me because I cruised through it with so much time in front of me. And I feel like that's really where we all are right now with the quarantine and television specifically, where you're catching on to a lot of things that, and we're beyond the, I haven't watched The Wire yet, or I haven't watched something else yet, or I haven't watched like a television show. What was the one that McMullen gave us? Killing Eve, right? I haven't watched a show like that where it's about time I start watching it. No, we're not at that point. We're past that point. I think it's now, especially if you're on your 5th or 6th week, that you're starting to consume stuff that you probably told yourself, nah, I'm never going to watch this. Nah, I won't watch this. I mean, hell, that's what started the whole thing with McMullen yesterday before we kind of went into the ridiculous thing of him not watching or ever watching E.T. So put that out yesterday at Shander Show, a television program that you yourself told yourself, you ain't watching. Like it's not going to be me. I don't care how many people are watching that show, but I won't watch it. And you know what? It might be something like Game of Thrones. I know a lot of resistance from that, people watching that show and turning it into this whole thing about dragons and all this Dungeons and Dragons. And there was a pretty big divide, as popular as that show was. But it's something like that. And again, twitch.tv/Shander Show. A lot of people on there already. Mike Savage 610. I was gone. All right, so this was recent than that Red Dead actually came out, more recent than the last 18 months, because that's when it would have been. Man, time does fly. And then, I did not JCross_33. I realized that I got through a couple of the endings, but I reached, so, you save, right? And then you go back. And that's the thing is, at that point, I cruised through it so much that it felt short, even when I would revisit save points deep in the game. So Tiger King doesn't count, all right? Jay and others who have thrown this out here, because Tiger King came out post-quarantine. Tiger King was out after we were already locked up. And I'm using me here and you, if you're following in this area, this greater Philly, even Northeast area. So that's really the question. Give me a sport, and that could be it. Or other television show you never thought you'd watch, but have, and since you've seen it, you've enjoyed it because of the quarantine.
Ozark.
All right, we'll get to Ozark in a sec. At Young Spud 1385. So, Rob, this was the first one that I saw, and I kind of breezed past it because it fit the bill for me, and I never saw myself watching it. I still haven't, trust me, but I am intrigued because it started a separate Twitter conversation off a little bit, and at that point, it got me thinking maybe I did miss something. It didn't look funny on the surface, And it did shift, at least from the previews that I saw. You know, I sat through the previews. It's not like I changed anything right away. But Psych never jumped out to me as that funny of a television show, mainly because the main guy, and I have to get the correct actors' names in here, but the guy that, you know, it's built around two people, James Roday and Dule Hill. And it's James, the main guy next to Dule Hill. James Roday, he was never funny in any of the previews. It's probably a big reason why I didn't watch that other television show in the hospital, because of the previews. You have to get me just a little bit. And you know what? I'm not a major sucker for a preview. It's not like I have a sweet tooth and I'll watch anything that looks remotely cool. I do get that the previews are meant to be the best of the best. But in certain cases, at the very least, don't turn me off. And I felt like Psych was just like, kind of a turn up. And then, you know, start to look at people's compelling arguments and how he's the idiot and they play off of it really well. And Dule is the guy who is actually a strong actor in the show. There are moments, light moments of humor that actually do connect. There are some misses in it as well. And it ran for freaking 8 years. So I might have to take my own medicine here. I might have to take my own vice and at least start that show. But I have a feeling that I'm going to go into it like McMullen with that type of attitude and just think, no. And the premise too, right? I think once you see a preview of something, you research it. Once you see something on television, a quick little snippet, 20, 25 seconds, bam, bam, come check this out. And you go on there, you read the storyline, you preview it, IMDb. You're halfway through that paragraph, you're thinking, I don't really know about that. I don't really know if I'm going to sit through something like this. 8 seasons. Now, I think the appeal for me in answering my own question, not with a specific, but actually looking at a show and the answers, an appeal, something for me would be longer than a season or two, longer than a movie. And you're going to see or hear, at least if you're not following along on Twitch, the sports that have been out there as well. And I get it from a sports standpoint, like 215 Shakespeare, Merchant of Philly, marble racing. We talked about those odds a couple of times on the show. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, where we had the Marbula 1 odds and ran through all of that. Even ran through the play-by-play of a video and seeing if there's any advantage at all to the pole position versus being in the back. You know, they run this thing 9 times through this, just like a Grand Prix. It's ridiculous. It's just impossible. Forget near or wherever close to it. It's impossible to handicap. You wouldn't know. So outside of the Marbula 1, the marble racing, I think people are kind of just struggling at this point to find anything around the board. But Psych, I saw, love Rob and appreciate whenever Rob is listening and tweeting, but I blew by it. And I thought this wasn't interesting. It wasn't appealing to me. And then I think, well, that's really what the whole thing is about. It's really about finding something that you weren't too busy for. It's not, I never had the time, or it's on my queue. If there's a show that you're thinking of that was on your queue at some point, it doesn't count. If there's a show that, like, I've never had Psych on any queue. I've never, ever thought to myself, I'm going to put Psych on there. And as soon as I blow through The Office for the 5th time, as soon as I clip and post about 6 or 7 more King of Queens episodes and run through whatever the hell fiance's watching on Bravo 5 or 6 times, Below Deck or whatever the crap is, then I can move forward and I can start watching Psych. Nope, doesn't count. It's out. It has to be something that you've purposely avoided. And it can be for multiple reasons. There's no wrong reason as why you would have avoided a show or why you would avoid a sport. But unboxing, as Nick from Doylestown tweets, and you have 1 through 6, right? I don't know if you can necessarily look at that, right? Because Is that something that you would count as a television show, just as far as an Instagram, something along those lines? I think Nick is just really bored. Now, there's a television show, a weekly show that airs on a network where I'm seen locally here a couple times, usually during sports a week, that I can't believe the extreme amount of popularity, not just from a typical who's watching television at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, but from a betting standpoint. We hit on that at Shander Show. Told you last night as we ended the program, there is new information regarding the spread, and it is deadly. Silent and, not but, and deadly. At Shander Show, it's the second level.
Tonight with John Michaels.
What event do you think you have any chance of actually getting done? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, you convinced me. I turned on Ozark and I have not looked back since.
Nice.
Javelin.
So you were anti, though?
Shot put. I'm scared of it.
Anti.
Oh,
I was just never. I never really knew about it because I don't really go on Netflix too much.
Gotcha.
So I've been using my Netflix a whole lot more since quarantine. Like I actually contemplated deleting it in January because like I never use it.
Like a
I
man.
mean, I'm kind of happy I still have it.
Like a year,
Nice.
I might have a shot to play some ping pong against somebody. Although, actually, no. Those dudes are like 40 feet off the tee.
Oh, and Community. That's another one. It's got a Chevy.
Yeah, I know Community.
Okay.
You've seen it,
They're
though?
flying everywhere. Never do that.
I watched it back when it was on NBC for a little bit, but then I picked it up again when now it's on Netflix. So I'm watching it, like rewatching it,
Got it.
like and finishing it.
Living in Jeter's house. First thought went to my mind, what if you didn't replace the dishwasher? Is that Jeter's problem or is that Brady's problem? Does Brady sit there and like, hey, Jeter, you need to take care of this. I'm not going to pay you rent. So when Brady goes in to Jeter's house and Jeter goes, yeah, the cell phone goes in the basket. He goes, oh, no. I already gone down this road before with the NFL. No chance. This phone's not going anywhere near that basket.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
This is the problem for a sport like baseball. It is an outdoor sport.
I got to check him out. Send me the link on here,
And
Cheetah.
the window for nice weather.
Let me know.
In certain parts of the country,
If you have the
Chicago,
link.
Philadelphia, New York, Boston, is quite small. I actually am somebody who believes that baseball should be going and playing in Arizona and in Florida once this thing calms down. And I think having teams be centrally located, I think finding a facility, a hotel that probably is empty, and putting your team there, it stinks. You're going to be away from your family. You're going to be away from your normal life. But that to me is a must. I just don't see how in the world you put like the New York Yankees in New York. Like how?
Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
So that was my 5-year-old. That was interesting.
Man, so
she and I have had a long.
I got to check that out.
No, you're not going Snapchat.
Mike, I'm not sure yet, man. That's still up in the air, but what I'm doing starting tomorrow doesn't preclude me from doing it on 97.3.
1 to 4 Eastern.
I unfortunately get paid by somebody else. That's why. So I'm at the mercy of that contract.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Shander.
All right, so Brian Phillips is going to join us. Pat's Pulpit up in Boston. We haven't really talked about it from a New England standpoint. You know, we had Tampa. We were all over the Tampa element and angle once we saw Tom Brady leave town. So still curious to see the reaction, hear the reaction up there. And there are constant stories regarding what they're going to do in the draft and where they might move, especially if it's for a quarterback. And now all eyes on the Patriots because there's just no way that they roll in there with Stidham, right? So you'll have to actually draft and develop somebody as opposed to roll with whatever piecemeal that you have, at least coming into this season. So we'll get Brian's thoughts on all of that. And look, there might be some breaking news regarding the Shure mic. All right. Now, I'm not prepared to give it out just yet, but in the next couple of minutes, we actually might have a way in which I can do this, because I'm not going to cheapen the moment. All right. I'm not going to cheapen the moment. The idea was to have this major announcement tomorrow and speaking to you through this mic for the first time. And I'm not going to sit there and hold it old school. I know that there are a couple of people on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show, that wanted just to see, all right, hold on to the mic and do like some sort of old school Howard Cosell interview. Nah, it's not going to happen. But we might have found a way locally here in studio to fix this thing. I still am not going to cheapen the moment and degrade your ears just to rush this thing. You can't jam double A's into a triple A hole just to get that thing working. Sorry, it's not gonna fly like that. Now, as far as the story that we ended the show, and we just didn't have enough time to wrap our heads around it. But everybody is going crazy, rightfully so, because we're locked in. You can't leave, and when you can leave, you have to wear a mask and gloves, and you have to be careful. You have to sanitize. You have to keep your distance. It used to be 5,000 to 2,500 to 1,000 to 100 to 50 to 10. And look, now you got idiots like Zeke and Dak hanging out, 30 people live on Instagram. People are breaking it. I told you that violators on my own block last night. So people are doing that. People are violating, right? They're moving around and doing it in groups larger than they should be. Now, there's a story that came out, and this is being pushed by TV doctor Xander Van Tulleken, who presented CBBC series Operation Ouch, as well as appearing on a string of documentaries, has raised this issue on social media. Now, you have to understand, before I even explain what the issue is, first off, you're going to have to understand and deal with this in somewhat of an adult capacity. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but let's say you can transmit, not like an STD, of course, but you can transmit something inside of you, whatever it may be that fits the bill. And in this case, it's through gas. Like if you, for example, are sleeping naked next to somebody, your significant other, and they're naked, and you fart on them, like, yes, there is a way in which you could transfer something inside you, like a virus, for example. And the virus du jour, du month, du year is the COVID-19. Doctors, this is the latest. It can spread through farts. They've made the discovery that it could spread the COVID-19 disease unless infected people wear pants, which can protect this from happening. All right. So there you have it. Now you know. You see, initially, you might have thought, look, I have my gloves. I have my mask. I sanitized my hands. I washed my hands. I know exactly what I'm doing. I have my hoodie on. I have my hat on to prevent everything getting close to me, keeping distance. But you know what? They still wouldn't let me in Whole Foods. I tried, man. I waited on that line. I stood behind that other yellow line that they made 6 feet apart from the other yellow line. I couldn't get back into Whole Foods. Damn it. Now I know I should have been wearing pants. Doctors say the infected person would have to not be wearing pants for starters. Look, you might think, all right, well, seriously, Shander, come on. But the reality is you have to take this a step further here. That's why it's the second level. You have a lot of people right now, couples. You have a lot of people that are married, living together, engaged, right? Sleeping in the same bed, naked. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of you sleep naked. Maybe both of you and your partner sleep naked. understand that even if you began or are still quarantining, this is something that you have to pay attention to. And oh, by the way, you see, this is where we bring it all back. Last week, we told you about that story where while Tinder and other dating apps have dropped significantly, you've got that affair website in which traffic has gone through the roof. Through the roof! If you're having an affair and you're sleeping next to your side piece, you better make sure that at least one of you is wearing pants. That's all I'm saying. Brian Phillips will join us next. Pat's Pulpit, all things Patriots.
Hi, I'm
You shoot me his number.
Yep. Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. And MLSConsumerAccess.org. Number 3030.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Message data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text MAINE to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text MAINE to 321321. That's MAIN to
We got him.
Awesome. Thanks.
321. As the novel coronavirus pandemic escalates in the U.S., public health officials are encouraging those who are experiencing signs or symptoms of COVID-19, such as coughing or fever, to seek medical guidance remotely. If you or a loved one are feeling sick or are just feeling worried, there is a way to get help without leaving home.
I did, yes.
The parent company of Roman is offering free telehealth.
Can't get it. I don't
services
think you can
for
get it in the
people
shower,
seeking
though,
guidance and
Mike.
Information on COVID-19.
There's too much soap.
Right.
Argent all 50
being
states and
sanitized.
Washington, D.C. Ro's free
I did,
online
Kevin.
assessment will help determine
And it was
if you
just
are
as
at
good
risk.
this year as it was last year.
Ro will connect you with a medical provider for a free consultation.
No, I
The
haven't.
assessment is designed by doctors and infectious disease experts and is based on guidelines from the CDC and the World Health Organization. Visit ro.co/coronavirus on your phone or laptop to complete a free online assessment or to just learn more. If you're worried that you may be experiencing symptoms, go to ro.co/coronavirus to start your free assessment today. That's ro.co/coronavirus.
You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? And how much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. Besthotelrates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great hotel and room choices for the best prices. Why wait? Go to besthotelrates.com, enter your email address, and start shopping for your next hotel room. Besthotelrates.com. It's in the name. Besthotelrates.com.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Chandler.
A lot's happened, to say the least, right? Not just in the world, with everything going to crap, but up in New England, specifically with the football team, losing a guy in Tom Brady since we've last had the opportunity to chat with Brian Phillips. Of course, you can follow Brian on Twitter at bphillips_SB. Runs the show for Pat's Pulpit of SB Nation. Brian, Eitan Chandler, second level. Always a pleasure, man. First and foremost, hope you and your family are well, man.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to talk to you, man. How you guys hanging out there in Philly?
Not bad, you know, and I'm about 25 miles, or well, not 25. I'm about 25 minutes out. So, I've been able to really seclude and stay home. And for what we do, it's kind of been business as usual for me. My fiance constantly is moving and going and traveling and doing things. So for her, it's really difficult. But look, all you can do is just stay the hell home at this point. And if you have to go to the supermarket, you mask up, gloves up, and then you kind of put your head down and run right home.
For sure, just do what we're told. That's all I ask. Just do what we're told, and this too shall pass.
It's funny, man. Like, this is the first time in my life where I've been so pro authority and pro, like, even to the point of like, yeah, you know what, man? If you've got idiots that are still hanging out on the beach, bring the tanks in. I never thought I'd ever say that before in my life.
Exactly, totally turn into a get off my
right
guy, but it's like common sense, but so many people are going through things that are so much worse than what we have going on every day. That's what I focus on, how good I have it. That's I think a good mentality to keep in mind.
Great perspective. I am curious though, because you see a lot of it with New York City and North Jersey, because that's clearly where a lot of people in New York live and work and travel. That's basically right over the river. But how is Boston? How is that area, from downtown through, Cape Cod? I don't see a lot of it, because I feel like New York, even with Philadelphia, New York takes a lot. Not that that's a problem, but I'm just curious, how is it up there in Boston?
So I'm actually out here in Ohio.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah. No, and so we're things are going well here because people are doing what they're told. But we don't have the population density, right? So it's a little easier for us to for our numbers to be better than
sure.
Like a Boston or New York. But
I was in Grove City for about 8 months, and I was able to socially distance myself in Grove City pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of them down there in Grove City for sure.
All right, well, let's look at the reaction. I know that one tweet, one crazy call, one crazy comment, you kind of put that aside. But you've had enough time now to compile a bunch of them, and they may not all be crazy. But what would you say, outside of the fact that we're all on edge and we've all been locked up for nearly a month, depending on where we live, what would you say is the feel, if you will, from Patriots fans towards the organization with Tom Brady's departure as the catalyst, or really even the backdrop?
So it's so interesting, and for 20 years we don't have to deal. The fan base doesn't have to deal with the things that every other team's had to deal with. And immediately, right as Tom leaves, yes, of course, there's fanfare and everybody, we miss Tom, and it's crazy. It's a weird feeling, but immediately, the immediate reaction of Patriots fans is to do what fans do, and that's to cling on to hope of unproven guys and really, in my opinion, project more success than should be projected in 2020. There's a big movement behind Jarrett Stidham. There is, for some reason, a narrative is taking hold in some corners of the fan base that Jarrett Stidham's rise made the move easier for the Patriots, and that this was their plan, which I completely disagree with. In my opinion, it's going to be a long 2020 NFL season for the Patriots, but that's not the feeling among the entire fan base, for sure.
So, are they really going to roll with Stidham?
I think this year that's the plan, and simply because of the cap situation.
Okay.
Right now they're somewhere around just a shade over $1 million. Of course, that will all change. A lot of things will change between now and whatever semblance of a training camp they have, or however that's going to go down. But they don't have the cap, and that's because they've made moves over the last couple of seasons to try their best to put weapons around Tom Brady, and it just didn't work out. They've got almost $5 million tied up in a grievance for the Antonio Brown grievance, which is not going to happen anytime soon. They're not going to be able to get a judgment on that. So they won't see that cap space till next year if they win it. And just you've got a lot Tom Brady, and that cap situation is hampering them. But the release of Cody Kessler last week, or maybe it was the week before, I don't know, the days are running together. It leaves them with two quarterbacks going into the summer, which they've never gone into a training camp with just two quarterbacks. So we have to imagine they're going to add one through the draft at some point.
Do you think that there is the expectation, and it's probably unrealistic, right? Because you can do smoke and mirrors so much with the quarterback position, unlike getting away with it with other positions like the Patriots have been able to for so long. Wide receiver, running back, things, granted, you have Gronk thrown in there, that helps. But, and no knock on Edelman, I'm just saying, to not have the star power, the consistent star power, right, year in and year out. Do you think that there's expectation now on Belichick that he can do the same? He can take a former lacrosse player and turn him into a wide receiver? Then hell, he can turn fill in the blank Kessler and turn this guy into a quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that they like the progress they saw with Jared Stidham. But I think the fans that think that he was at all part of their severance with Tom Brady, they have to completely divorce themselves of that idea, because the writing was on the wall of Tom Brady last summer when it came to contract extension not happening, and when we found out that he would become a free agent for the first time in his career. So, at that point, Stidham had only been in camp and only in the organization for a couple of months. And then he only threw, I believe, 6 NFL passes this year, one was a pick 6. Obviously, you don't hold that against him. But he's got to be looking at it as, business as usual from a roster construction standpoint. There is not going to be in my opinion, a rebuild of any kind. It's not a rebuild in a traditional sense, because Bill is constantly churning the roster over anyway, constantly, accumulating draft picks, making hay with their undrafted free agents, and, leading the league in the amount of trades and maximizing every way they can build a roster. That's not going to change. The only difference is they're eventually not going to have, they're going to have a little more flexibility starting next year, not having Tom Brady's salary on the books. But, it's going to be business as usual as far as how they develop their pro personnel talent.
What's going to happen if the Patriots take a step back? And I don't think that the team is bad enough. Look, you mentioned the cap hit. You mentioned where they are as far as dead money. I know that they're paying some people, but they're talented. That defense was there, and they're a loss versus a win away at the end of the season from having that first round bye as the 2 seed. So there's no reason, Brian, right, to expect this team is going to fall off the face of the earth just because Brady left. But if they go 7-9, 8-8, that's probably worst case scenario for this team. What's the reaction, do you think, with Patriots fans at that point, where this is new territory for a lot of people that are on the planet rooting for this team?
I think the floor is much lower than 7-9, 8-8, because the way I look at it is their defense was all world last year, and we know what happens when you see defenses performing at that high level, and there's going to be regression. No matter if they brought every single guy back that they had last year, which was the case. Kyle Van Noy's gone, Delon Harmon's gone. A lot of the pieces are gone. Landon Roberts, and there's a lot of guys that are not going to be there. Dave Shelton, the list goes on and on. Of course, we'll add through the draft, we've added through free agency, but the bottom line is this team had trouble moving the football with Tom Brady as their quarterback last year, and that is not going to be the case this year. And it's the same cast of characters with Mohamed Sanu, Julian Edelman, and N'Keal Harry being the primary 3 at this point. They don't have a capable tight end on the roster right now, and yet the offensive line is coming back, but you got an aging right tackle in Marcus Cannon. The offense, in my opinion, is going to be a serious issue. And if you don't have if you can't move the football in this league, you're not going to win games. In my opinion, knowing that we have no true knowledge of what Jared Stidham what his ceiling is, you have to assume that he's an average quarterback or below average, which puts, in my opinion, them at 5 or 6 wins. Even with the defense that they have now, best secondary in the NFL, great special teams. They don't have a kicker at this point either. So, I mean, there are so many question marks, and one being at the biggest position and most important position in had 6 wins this year.
6 wins. Wow. All right. So is that? But okay, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. Somebody on Twitch is weighing in X_Drumheller. They must like Stidham. To your answering to your point you raised earlier. Can't imagine Belichick punting the season. But if you're rolling with Jarrett Stidham and you're looking at a 6-win season, I understand that you have dead money. I get that it's difficult to maneuver. But man, Brian, doesn't that feel like you're just trying to get to the top so you could draft a quarterback next year and not even giving a crap about this year?
I don't think that's I definitely don't think that's the goal. Tom Brady covered so many mistakes that this team, that so many of the problems were, so many of the holes in the roster were plugged by Tom Brady's efficiency. And he was not that great last year to begin with. And then you have an unproven guy with Jarrett Stidham. I mean, it's just, there's nothing that on paper that says they are going to take any kind of, be any kind of meaningful production, kind of production on offense. It doesn't matter who you even draft this year because everybody drafted, everybody is supposedly getting better in the offseason. Particularly when you look around the division, Buffalo. There's no plausible reason to say Jarrett Stidham is going to lead this team to the playoffs, and I would have to imagine there's going to be defensive regression. So if you put those two things together, I think you've got a long way to go. And I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's an intentional thing on their part. The roster isn't as good as Patriots fans will lead you to believe.
Brian Phillips joining us at @BPhillips_SB. All things Pat's Pulpit at Pat's Pulpit. Curious listen, man, always a pleasure, and I'm glad to hear you're doing well, that you're safe. We threw this out earlier in the night, and just curious where you have anything at all. A television show, because I know from a sports standpoint, you haven't stopped working and the NFL continues, but is there a television show that you never thought you would watch, but since quarantine you have and have actually enjoyed it? Can be anything.
Oh man, we've been deep into some Netflix rewatching. Obviously did the Tiger King back.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't count because it came out since we've been quarantined.
True. Me and my wife have been deep into the West Wing, rewatching the West Wing, which it's like my 5th or 6th time rewatching it. But we're like dead in the middle of West Wing, so that's really been taking up a bunch of our time. That, and we've been putting a bigger emphasis on Vanderpump Rules.
Wait a second.
My wife loves Vanderpump Rules.
Wait.
So I'm getting it in the drop.
Okay, see. I feel your pain, my friend, because that and Below Deck are constantly on in my household now. So I just feel like they rotate on marathons.
Oh, absolutely. Now they got a Below Deck where it's like a little mini sailing yacht, apparently. The Bravo is a constant in our house.
Thanks, brother. Stay safe. Appreciate it.
And thanks for having me. Glad to hear you doing well.
Thank you, brother. Brian Phillips right there at Pat's Pulpit. Make sure you read everything as we head into the draft. And you heard there are a lot of things that you have to take into account looking at this team moving forward. One of them is going to be reaction. And I'll tell you, as we wrap the hour next, something that Brian said that I don't think people in New England are ready for. It's the second level.
Wake up! I got a call.
All right, nice.
They go, you can go back to work, you can go to sports arenas, and then we go, absolutely, thanks.
Can you guys hear okay? The sound okay? I got a tweet saying it was a little off. So if there's ever an issue, just let me know, and I'll do what I can to fix it.
I know, right?
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
I want to know what the other hand is doing. So my Dr. Fauci impression is more like, well, it's more like if you have 2 people in a room, it's better if one of them leaves. So in the future, let's say you're taking your family to a restaurant and there's 4 of you. It's better to just get 4 tables. And please limit the visitation to maybe once every 2 weeks. That would be the best.
to keep this completely under control. Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings.
Hey everybody, RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blogging the Boys podcast feed has daily episodes breaking down the latest and greatest in the world of America's team. We have multiple shows, multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner, two-time Super Bowl champion Tony Casillas is part of our rotation, and we want to make sure you are as well. We're available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So don't miss out. Subscribe to the Blogging the Boys podcast feed today. Hey everybody, RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blogging the Boys podcast feed has daily episodes breaking.
I don't know why people want to call me to try to troubleshoot their problems.
Multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner.
Like this dude just called and said like he can't figure out how to make a play on his dog. Like I don't know.
Yes, so don't miss out. Subscribe to the Blogging Boys podcast feed today.
SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
Let's not fool ourselves. 17 games is coming, period. The NFL realizes
That's
right
the
now,
feed.
if we go to 17 games, you know what that is? More money. You're going to get basically 2 more weeks of programming out of all this. The extra game and the extra bye week. The NFL can milk that for more money out of the television networks. For the television networks, it's simple. For all the BS talk of fans who were out there that said, look, we're going to boycott the game for whatever. Whether it was players off the field activities, whether it was kneeling for the flag, whether it was the game changing in the way they're taking away some of the hard hits. People said they weren't going to participate, not going to watch. Like 9 of the top 10 programs throughout the year are NFL games. So say whatever you want. People are...
Hey, it's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
And if
John already put it in the system.
Okay, thanks.
more money,
You're welcome.
having more games, they're going to have more games.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented
Tomorrow,
by
brother.
Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Eitan Chandra.
Second hour, we've got some Brian Windhorst audio to digest. We'll do that. Breaking news is going to be put on hold. Not for the big stuff, but I thought I'd be able to fire in this stand here. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to find something else. The show will launch. We will move on. But I will not be able to have it locked up here. And I'm just afraid to pull the trigger on something new. Now, Brian mentioned this at the end. 6-10. 6-10 for the New England Patriots. So let me fast forward what happens after a 6-10 season. Bill Belichick isn't going anywhere. But every single person in and around Boston, all the way through Pasadena, is going to come out with think piece after think piece about why he should retire and why he's cooked, all of this stuff. Ugh, I'm not ready for it because he's not going to go anywhere. He's just tanking to the top. All right, brother. Great stuff, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep, talk to you probably
Next week. Yep, you got it.
Have a good one, Eitan.
You too. Thanks, Jack.
Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
Jeff Theismann here on Pushing the Odds. How has quarantine life been for you? Probably the most important word that we can all consider is patience with everybody. I know everybody's sort of going stir crazy. I mean, let's face it, this is something we're not used to as a society. We move quite rapidly, but now we're forced to sort of reevaluate the important things in life, and I think it's good in that regard. Matt, I've said this for a long time. If you have your health, you have wealth. Wealth has nothing to do with what your bank account looks like. If you have
your health, then you are a very wealthy person. Now it's important that we understand that you want to be able to keep social distancing so that everybody can stay healthy. And the more we can practice that, every day that we can practice that, every day we can buy a day for the scientists to be able to come up with a cure or a vaccine, it's a day closer to having this craziness end. And life will never be the same.
Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
All right, listen up, pay attention. Hey, what's up, SB Nation? It's your boy, Scotty Perrault. Starting April 14th, I'm back weeknights with Sports Grid from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's Perrault coast to coast. My degenerate gambling buddy, Gabe Morency, comes off the bench at 6 p.m. with game time decisions. And then as soon as that hiatus is over, I'm back in your face, man. Right, in your face! For another hour at 7 Eastern with In-Game Live. It's Perrault on Sports Grid. And I'm back on SB Nation Radio, baby.
Wake up call. You know what? I think Tiger King is probably going through the thing.
That'll be
How did you get through the great quarantine? Let me tell you the story of a guy and his tigers, and another guy and his sex cult, and a woman that fed her husband and his wives. I think it's just going to be.
Do you think Oklahoma, in some way, some fashion, or maybe the country as a whole, we should have a Joe Exotic statue? A place, a beacon of hope, a beacon of light that we can all travel to once the quarantine is over.
Families,
mass gatherings. So generations from now, we can sit there and say, guys, this man right here is what got us through county play.
I think it's a great idea. That's a good idea. Joe Exotic statue. The great miracle in the 2020 quarantine.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
We don't know that 16 days from now things might not be trending in a good direction. I'm going to continue to take the glass half full approach. I'm continuing to plan as if college football and pro football is going to happen in the fall, and that we're going to have the NBA by June at some point. I'm thinking by June we're going to have NBA back and baseball will be up and running. We may be playing in front of empty gyms for a while. So be it.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault.
Stand by the road. Swings here. I'm putting the odds. The most angry I've ever been at you was when you shot me with a paintball gun. Do you remember why you shot me with the paintball gun?
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a girl involved or something, to be honest with you. That's usually how these things work. But I do remember it because it was radio promotion. We were at this paintball place, and I think we were just getting on each other's nerves like 20-year-old dudes do, and you can put your hands up, and I took a free shot at you. You did not appreciate it one bit. So I don't know if I ever apologized for that, but if I didn't, sorry, man.
I remember my rib cage being like so sore for like 3 days afterward. You hit me like 4 times. It wasn't like one shot. It was like multiple points of the trigger too. But you got me.
Oh, geez, it's like you completely have not forgotten about it.
Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up call.
I had to keep it consistent, you know? Probably, yeah. No, show's not over. I'm doing stuff during the week. Back 11 to 1. So, I'll tell you where. That's all.
No, come on, Mr. President. You know who Joe Exotic is.
Everybody knows.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings.
Listen to the Car Gurus.
What up?
Mike
Hello?
Hurting with Matt Perrault.
Yeah, John's here. He's just doing your tweet.
Cool.
Eastern on Let's Talk
Everything's all set and ready to go.
Thanks, brother.
SB Nation Radio. Join Mike and Matt as they talk about everything going on in the world of cars. To get more content on your favorite team, you can check out our friends at SBNation.com. They have team-specific sites to fit your needs, whether it's basketball, baseball, NFL, or the school you graduated from. SB Nation has you covered.
Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com.
Set your system's volume control for slightly above the normal listening level.
Let's go. Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the easy, obvious conclusions.
You got to do some smart thinking.
Welcome to the second level. To the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Where we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's
Mike's hot.
Now, I missed it. It kicked off at 5 o'clock, but there were some serious odds in the global market regarding how and what you could bet on with the Lakewood Church Easter celebration. That, of course, Pastor, right? Joel Osteen. Dr. Oz, not Olstein. Joel Osteen is the preacher, the pastor, pardon me, and Oz is the doctor. Just want to make sure that I have it right in my head. In fact, that famous, now turned into a meme of Dr. Oz going on around Twitter, at least. I'm sure Instagram, it's made its round, where he was putting on the bandana. And I got it. And if you were getting it at just the right time, he's standing up and he has the full-on bandana stretched out, folded over just once, and he's about to put it over his face like Jesse James. And it's just hilarious because, of course, it's Dr. Oz. But in this case, and I'll just read off the top odds of the day. I did not see this. I hope somebody out there did so they can confirm what paid out. How will Kanye West address Joel Osteen first? Lakewood Church, again. The Easter Sunday service began at 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 hours ago. Manager's decision. Any wagers placed when this becomes public knowledge will be graded no action. All right? Pastor, minus 150. Joel, plus 150. Mr. Osteen is plus 300. Does anybody know? Does anybody have any idea? Anybody watching? Twitch.tv/Shander Show. You can follow along on the other platforms as well. We strongly suggest you sign up, subscribe. It's free so you can watch as you listen on SB Nation Radio and SBNationRadio.com. But I don't even know how to begin handicapping that. Pastor, sure, Pastor, that's the respectful, normal way you would address him. What if he goes full houseway? How, Joel? That's plus 150. That's going to pay off. I don't think he called him Mr. Osteen, right? Not at plus 300.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket.
What up, Aton?
What's going on?
Challenging times we're all.
Hey, what you want in the suite?
Let's do replay the replay. Actually, wait. That thing. You have that cut. That kind of just changed everything. The one I sent, right? The Windhorse one.
Yeah, I put it in.
All right, let's do that. So let's do the 25-day plan.
No excuses exists.
And replay the replay, and then null. NULL.
And we're prepared to help. If you currently work with us and need assistance with your mortgage, contact us 24/7 at rocketmortgage.com. As we all think about ways to save money, let me remind you that mortgage rates are near historic lows. If you think right now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Text enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Message data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Oh man, Kanye canceled the service.
321 to get a comp.
That's surprising.
Award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. It's unique, man.
He was in Houston, 3 or 4 months ago, and did a concert at Lakewood Church. So that's surprising.
More passion.
Well, I mean, now with everything, yeah, he was there like a year ago, wasn't he?
I don't even think it was a year ago. It was 4 or 5 months.
Oh, you're right. I think it was like, yeah.
321-321. That's MAIN to 321-321.
This is an urgent health notice for all residents suffering from back, neck, knee, and wrist pain. You may
Man, I had all these
for a pain
Kanye
relief
odds,
at
too.
little or no cost to you, but the deadline
Crazy,
is fast
man.
approaching. Simply call.
I'm surprised you can put odds on Easter Sunday stuff.
Bro, it's fucking Bet Online, so.
These items may even be covered by Medicare or your private insurance. The Health Alert Hotline is your brace company.
There's going to be a lot of times getting a back-to-basketball player ready. They hope they get to use it. We're talking to executives and trainers around the league.
Insurance or Medicare to new.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll throw to that.
All right, cool.
Because you may lose your opportunity to get a pain-relieving back, neck, knee, or wrist brace at little or no cost to you.
800-608-1881. 800-608-1881. 800-608-1881. That's 800-608-1881.
You're listening to The Second Level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios with way more than the scores. Here
Next side.
and Shannon.
But before we get to the Brian Windhorst cut, the 25-day plan the NBA has, and a week ago we played the Windhorst news dump that popped a week from this past Friday night, where he basically said, prepare for the NBA to just shut things down. And you're lucky to get a playoffs at this point based on what's happened in China, South Korea, and other stuff happening in Southeast Asia and countries that were ahead of the chronology of the spread of the virus. If you want to look at, even if you were to flatten a map, not the world, of course, but the map, and see how it's moved from east to center to now west. With that said, I don't know how many of you, because we talked about it leading into the actual battle. So I don't know how many of you caught the Premier versus RZA battle. It was insane to see the numbers and how many people were tweeting about it and following along on it. And I think two things popped first and foremost. One is I realized, John, as we thank Jack for his service in hour one, John for the final two here with me, we don't play either enough Primo or RZA. And I just think that those are two, especially because, look, we play hip-hop. We do a great job. You do a fantastic job of it. So I'm not criticizing you by any means. I love your selections. I'm just saying as a whole, you know, Premier and RZA should never be underrepresented when you have the freedom to play any genre of music. That's all. So I don't know how we can infuse more of it in there. And look, you know, this isn't me being a homer. Hey, you know, we need to play more Beanie Siegel. You're right. I'm not trying to throw more Roots, you know, Philly stuff in there. I'm just saying overall.
No, but all you got to do is ask, and we can make it happen.
That's all. That's all. You know what we should do is we should make the rest of this hour and I'll leave it up to you, either a Premier or a RZA hour. And then the final hour will be the opposite. And you don't have to make a decision right now unless you want to make a decision right now. What do you think?
I'm going to look it up and see what we got.
Okay. Well, you can always pull stuff, right? Instrumentals and things from the intranet. So it's up to you. But what we'll do is moving for the final, at least, I don't know, we've got a couple breaks in this hour, and we'll make it either a Premier or a RZA, and then we'll move it to the other side. So the final thing I'll say, and we'll listen to Brian Windhorst as he was just on SportsCenter, some interesting information about the NBA. It's all speculative. That's why it's not breaking news. Jeff Fox 29, miss you too, brother. Follow along, twitch.tv/Shander Show, at Shander Show. The battle itself, it was interpreted two different ways. One is the song, the entire song, and that's okay. And I'm not saying either one is correct. I just noticed that people interpreted the battle two different ways. One was the song itself, meaning not just the music, not just the instrument and that element of it, but the people on and rapping and speaking over it, everybody involved, voices as well. for me, I looked at it like just beats. I looked at it like, all right, well, the producer is doing just so much. Like RZA was the benefit of way better talent around him. I'm going to make this analogy, and I'll appeal to the people that are watching. I'll appeal to the people that are listening. I'll appeal to John and anyone else who gives a damn. John, of course, is forced to. You all out there are choosing to, so I appreciate both of you. But here's the thing. It reminded me, if you're talking about people rapping versus just the instrumentals, it reminded me of the difference where you had Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders, where Premier is Barry. Premier, you give him the ball, doesn't matter who's in front of him, doesn't matter what's going on. You can be down 30, you can be up 30. He can break one for 80 yards. Emmitt had so much talent around him, yet still thrived because we saw plenty of people that had a lot of talent around them that couldn't do it. And Emmitt, to his credit, crushed it. But let's be honest, he had the line. He had the wide receivers. He even had a tight end and a quarterback that was pretty damn good, underrated, as much as this pains me to say it about the Dallas Cowboys. I need to cleanse my palate right now with all that Cowboys praise. This is Brian Windhorst on SportsCenter, the NBA 25-day plan.
They're spending a lot of time, Jay, getting a back-to-basketball plan ready. They hope they get to use it. And when talking to executives and trainers around the league, what they're looking at is a 25-day return-to-basketball window. Hopefully, at some point, they can enact it. An 11-day series of individual workouts, whether it be social distancing for a period of time. And then, hopefully, if the clearance comes, if they can play 5-on-5 basketball, a 14-day training camp. So as you hope for the country to heal and the virus to get better, look for at least about a 3.5 to 4 week return date before you never get back to games.
All right, so 25 days, that's what you tack on immediately on the start day. And let's reverse back to Adam Silver's comments last week. Amidst all of the other commissioners, even a couple of weeks back with that conference call down in D.C., where you had everybody pushing and pushing. And Silver's like, look, you may think Dana White or Vince McMahon or anybody else trying to push this envelope that you're going to be back in action or maintain your action. But for us, the NBA, and this is Adam Silver, he said, I can't even give you a timeline about what we're doing until May 1st. Forget what's happening. Forget what we can do in 2 or 3 months. I can't even begin to tell you what we're doing until we hit May 1st. And you add now the 25 days, it's going to take a little bit. The NBA is not going to do anything at all with fans in the building. The NBA is not going to wait, and good for them, for fans to be able to be in the building. The NBA is going to rush this thing as fast as they can, but in a league that has always successfully been dominated and governed by players first, for better or worse, this is going to be player safety first and to be honest with you, Mark Cuban and others are just going to rush guys back out there without having legit conversations and having, if it's a vaccine, which is not going to be here for a while, or something in the middle, or simply just, hey, we can test and mitigate by drawing up some sort of compound in Vegas. You're talking about from now, at least 2 months away, right? At least 2 months from watching NBA basketball at whatever level or capacity it is that came back. Because otherwise, thinking ahead of time, don't things can change. It's not going to change that drastically. I don't care what you're listening to or what press conferences you're watching, or if it's the president or the California governor or anybody in between. Nothing is at the point where in the next 15 days, we are going to drastically change as far as how we interact and what we can do and where, most importantly, we can do that. So it's not going to magically become safe for the NBA, especially because you had patient zero in professional sports, at least publicly, with Rudy Gobert. The NBA has a little more pressure than other leagues on just jumping right back into the pool. NBA, as soon as they come back, the whole Rudy Gobert thing is going to come back. The videos, like they haven't gone away, of course, are going to come back. It's going to be a story. Rudy Gobert versus Donovan Mitchell. We'll see how long that feud lasts once they're back on the court. But that being said, you still have the perception of, man, we had to shut down because somebody got sick. We had to shut down because Gobert himself was positive and it was spreading. And if we did not, then we would have looked negligent. And that's probably putting it nicely, opened up the lawsuits, etc. So, yes, they shut down. I can credit them for shutting down, but it's not like this came from some think tank. Hey, what do we do? No, it came from immediate reaction, which is fine. Sometimes, unfortunately, immediate knee-jerk reaction to a crisis causes the necessary change that should have been happening a week to 2 to maybe 3 weeks prior. Adam Silver's not rushing anything. Adam Silver isn't making sure that he's got his Bucks in front of him before health. And I'm not talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm talking about the stack of paper that returns with an NBA playoff. That's going to happen, I think, at some point. But 2 months from now, middle of June, which is realistic. I think it's been realistic this whole time. What are you truly looking for? At Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. Brian Windhorst relaying the plan right there for the NBA. You can get us on the line, 800-224-2004. We'll get back to our Twitter question we threw out regarding TV shows, sport as well. Keep those ways of interacting handy. But what do you truly, if you look at this thing in the big picture, has it truly changed for your expectations? Best case scenario, I think, right now, is that middle to end of June. And they may wait the month of May because you have nothing from Adam Silver that would indicate anything definitive. Hey, man, I can't even talk to you right now for another couple of weeks. I need 2 to 3 weeks right now just to get my head on straight before I can give you anything regarding a timeline. That's what Adam Silver said, paraphrased, of course, last week. That doesn't give me much hope that as soon as May 1st comes around, Silver's going to be like, all right, let's go. Silver doesn't make that big of a statement. You don't lay it out that severe if all you're doing is waiting for 1 or 2 quick tinkers right now in what's happening in our society with the COVID, and then all of a sudden it's back to normal, or at least you can prepare for that 25-day plan back to normal. Silver knows it. He's been paying attention. He's been talking to the right people. He's been using his access. Now, that's something where you have to truly figure out why other people, from White to McMahon, even Goodell, I'm sure, has people pushing him, right? Wouldn't shock me. Trying to get around this cloud, trying to mow through this cloud of uncertainty. With what? With hope? With pessimism? Either one right now is faulty. Anybody telling you nothing's going to happen in the fall, or yes, something's going to happen in the fall, nobody knows. We'd like to believe that based on progression, forget models, but just actual progression, that things should be happening in the fall, sans fans, like without us. Okay, that's something we can accept. That's something we can prepare for. But the NBA right now is probably the best indicator of what's happening with professional sports. As much as I thought it would be the NFL, NFL isn't in a position. They're not cornered right now. NBA has to get back. NBA has to get back. They need to justify paying players. They need to get that TV money back in for a playoffs. They need to set it up and sell in Vegas in some sort of compound. Keep half the league, if that, for shortened playoff series. Run it, crown a champion, move on. Everybody back home, continue to social distance. We've done our part. We've made our money. There we have it. That's the NBA's plan, but they're not rushing it. And I think they are the best right now, at least, indicator of what's going to happen moving forward with professional sports. Elsewhere, you just can't trust what the NFL is doing because they're in full off-season mode, and they've already successfully, I believe, outside of what's happening with Zoom. And man, do I have a Zoom story here. I didn't realize, not with me, but with a friend of mine, Xavier Pope, man, out in Chicago. And I can't believe this. People, like, what's wrong with you? Who the hell raised you that you're hacking a Zoom call just to throw in porn? Like, it's one thing if you're trying to hack an NFL team Zoom call to see if you're another team or fan that you can help your team. But what are you doing? Hacking somebody's Zoom meeting. What are they doing? They're working, or in the case of X, was doing a webinar basically where he was doing some sort of meditation in yoga, a class, and somebody hacks it and throws porn in there. I mean, come on, what's wrong with people right now? Let people communicate and live. Live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show, 800-224-2004. We'll get back to the television show or sport you never thought you would watch, but now you have and have enjoyed it because of the quarantine. It's the second level.
SB Nation tonight with John Michaels.
Did you see the latest on Kevin Durant?
Hold on one sec, bud.
He played with a bunch of athletes, but not a bunch of guys that can shoot or play. Dude, Russell Westbrook and James Harden were on your team. I get it. Kendrick Perkins wasn't a very skilled big man. Tomo Cephalosha was a great defensive guy, and that's it. Don't do this 6, 7, 8 years later where you're calling guys out. You sound like a candy ass when you do that. I thought it was soft as hell when he left, but to not be hypocritical, it is free agency. You are free to go play wherever the hell you want when you're a free agent. But why years later are you trashing guys that you used to play with, and whenever you're healthy again, you're now going to play again? I'll tell you, if I'm Russell Westbrook and I'm James Harden and I go against Kevin Durant, I'm putting the Slim Reaper on his rear end, telling him, shut the hell up. You were part of the reason we couldn't get the job done.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
If business, pleasure, or sports fandom takes you to Houston, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, check out CultureMap.com to get the scoop on the local favorites. From the best restaurants, bars, pubs, and clubs to the biggest sights and sounds each city has to offer, CultureMap has it all. Just head over to CultureMap.com. The expert team personally reviews and visits each spot to make sure you get the best experience. And if you're coming back, sign up for free Culture Map updates at CultureMap.com.
Wake up, call! Flipping the Browns is kind of what old hat. Yeah, that's old hat. Everybody does it. Can't do it. Buccaneers? Fun. You're now on our radar. It goes back to the glory days. Glory days of 20 years ago. But I'm with you with the whole glory days scenario, too. Usually glory days means I'm going to sit down with somebody and then reminisce. It's about a time before mine. And Ken Burke was narrating. Or that over-the-top announcer was like, and the skipper brings out Lou Gehrig out to the field, and look at him go as he hits a home run, and the Yankees win it by a score of 3-2, getting those old Boston Red Stockings once again. That's what I mean by glory days. Oh, look at Billy Cannon run, the LSU superstar. Look at him smile as he scores another touchdown against Ole Miss, and Tiger fans cannot stand them any longer as they stand up and cheer for good old Billy Cannon. But that's what I mean by glory days. If Joe Buck's calling your name, that's what you consider glory days? Not glory days. Wake up. What up?
No, I'm sorry. I'm back.
Weekday morning.
I got Premiere. I'm gonna play here and at the 40.
Perfect.
Spoilers. Experience.
Did you watch that joint? I know you were working with Patrick.
No, I didn't watch it.
9.com.
I had no idea it was even going on.
We talked about it.
You mentioned it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't know it until you brought it up.
Oh, okay.
The Steelers and Cowboys, and relive one of the most controversial plays ever, the Mike Renfro play. Red, white, and Columbia blue. Download now at Houston.
I'm working on getting Rizzo.
All good, brother. Thank you. Oh, man.
What it is today, it's the real. It's the plan.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios.
Mike's up.
Shander.
Wow, just speaking directly to my soul right now. the militia. Freddie Fox does a number 1-2 times over on this song. But make no mistake, it is a group effort here. But just the hard beat, that bass that is not like overpowering, like Florida, Miami rattling so you can't hear anything, but it's full. And then the primo staple, of course, is the simplest. Think about this, the component. Like if you were just to strip this down, I'll be quiet for a second, John. If you could just pump it up a sec behind me as I stop, because just listen to how simple this beat is, that thing in the back. Now, this is the chorus, so of course I'll talk through it in a second. But as soon as they come back, so after the hook, just listen to how simple. It's a primo staple, where the song itself, if you were to actually strip it down, it's like 2 or 3 things, but how he sampled it and how he sequenced it, nobody can do this. Now listen. It's 2 riffs. That's it. It's 2 riffs. Now you're going to hear RZA in the second hour, third hour technically, as we do this, and he's going to have like 60 different elements and components, 64 of 64 tracks being used. Oh, man. So the battle was last night. That's why we made this a primo hour, and we'll do some RZA coming up in the third. Just an update. Kanye West canceled his appearance at the Lakewood Church because, obviously, of the coronavirus, did not want to risk the health of the choir, who was all set to perform socially distancing with masks on. But Kanye nixed it and said no, he did not want to do it because he did not want to risk anybody's health, which makes total sense right now. So if you're thinking, wow, somebody who has been there, 6 months ago, John, you said in the break. So he's definitely familiar with the church. He's performed there. He's been there. He sat with Joel Osteen, and we had odds how he would address Osteen right through other things with Kanye, like would he say Tiger King at all? No, -800, yes, +425. But Kanye said no, he bailed and canceled. Now, Mariah Carey, I don't know if she made it. We have to figure this out, because the odds on Mariah Carey's song Hero, from first note to last note, the over-under was 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, this thing kicked off at 5 o'clock Eastern, so we're 2.5 hours into it. I don't even know if it's still going on. But from note to note at the Lakewood Church Easter Sunday service stream, that's all in the stream today, Mariah Carey's Hero song came in at 4 minutes 20 seconds. -130 for under. Over 420 is -110. Man, that is a long song. I don't care what song it is. I mean, Microphone Fiend is probably one of the first songs I ever memorized as a kid. First verse, first word to last word. Stairway, if you go back to long songs, right? Songs that go 4 minutes and 20 seconds, that's a long song right there. I wonder if anybody was, wrap it up, B. If anybody hit her with the wrap it up box. Under is -130. Not a heavy favorite, but still, there's a little bit. Man, this other thing about Kanye was pretty interesting. The total members, over under 25.5 members of Kanye's choir. It's split at -120 either way, but 25, 26 people. You have something like that. Wow. No wonder. You have to step back. You can't, by any means, have a choir you're going to be ripped like we did Dak and Zeke. You're going to be ripped up and down. You can't have a group, a choir of 30 people, even if they're socially distancing. That's a wide shot right there. You're going to need an arrow. You're going to need a drone to take that type of shot. 30 people in a choir, 6 feet apart. You're going to individually mic everybody up? I don't know, man. No wonder why Kanye made that decision. All right, we'll see. Look, man, will Kanye wear a MAGA hat? No, -1100. Yes, +650. Will Kanye say Trump? No, minus 300. Yes, plus 200. John, you didn't realize you had all these odds, not only on the Osteen event, but also Kanye West.
Kanye's political beliefs is something you can bet on. That's crazy.
Isn't it? Wait. On top of it, it's not just that. Kanye's political beliefs or political gear at an Easter service that's being streamed by Joel Osteen.
Dude, that's just wild.
and here's the crazy thing about it. This would have been going on. Now, the streaming element is the difference, but the activity and the betting on would have been going on, pandemic or not. The fact that this is available means it would have been available. Now, there was an actual humongous bet that actually paid off. So you thought that all live stuff is done and you can't win any money. Not so fast. We'll go to Gulfstream Park, Florida. Also, replay the replay next.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times,
hey, what is replay the replay?
Oh, it's this thing on the NFL replay that they're trying to fix.
Okay, I didn't know if there was something I needed.
No, that's fine. I do want to.
If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. And MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
If your credit card bills have gotten out of hand,
How's that
call
defined?
Consolidated Credit now. If you're making the minimum payments, but your balance is just not going down, call Consolidated Credit now. If the interest rates on your credit cards are so high, it would take years to get out of debt. Call Consolidated Credit now. They've helped over 5 million people. They can consolidate your debts into one lower payment, reduce your interest rates, and get you out of debt fast. If you're struggling with credit card debt, call Consolidated Credit now. Call now, 800-549-1277. That's 800-549-1277. 800-549-1277. Consolidated Credit Counseling Services Incorporated, 5701 West Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33313. Not a loan company licensed by the New York Department of Financial Services and by the Vermont Department of Financial Regulation. Maryland DM 19, Oregon DM 80031. Licensed by Virginia State Corporation. Commission license number DC 32. Establishment of a plan may adversely affect the individual's credit rating or credit scores. Non-payment of debt may be creditors to increase financial charges or collections activity, including litigation.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discount. Generic sildenafil allows you to save up to $650 on Viagra. Why pay name brand prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get the same results for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 50 generic sildenafil pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $750 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill for the name brand again. Get generic sildenafil for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-450-5582 today and save up to $650 and get 50 pills for just $99. Generic sildenafil is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting to take your call now. 800-450-5582. That's 800-450-5582. Again, 800-450-5582.
Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs, and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com. You're listening to The Second Level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios.
Mike's hot.
Forbes, here's Eitan Shander.
It's just not going to sound like that anymore. You know? Just the consistency of it. It's just, it's not going to sound like that anymore. That sound is gone. And it's a shame because I don't know what the hell happened with Identity and the Force out style or a sound from New York City to the rest of the country, but it didn't make any sense. People will look at that historically. When it comes to an anthology of music itself and incorporating hip-hop culture and, of course, rap music underneath it, that's going to be one of the most ridiculous and more difficult phenomenons to explain. It's going to be like the disappearance of the Mayans. What the hell was going on? I mean, you look at the specifics of the Mayan civilization before they vanish, and for whatever reason you believe, there are a bunch out there, all plausible. They were pretty advanced, and especially if you look at the time period in which they existed. And it's not just, oh, well, they had, a little bit more advancement than a couple of, no, I mean, you night and day difference. And then just, boom, that's it. And the sound in New York was so advanced, so ahead of its time when it came to rap music. And for all of a sudden, it's like, no, we want to sound like Atlanta. We want to sound like California. We want to sound like Houston. We want to sound like Minnesota at times. It's like, what the hell? What are you doing? What are you doing? At Shander Show, live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show is how you can follow along. Get to this thing with the replay coming up in a second. Ben Volen tweeted this about 12 hours ago. The NFL is considering switching to the Hawkeye instant replay system that was used in the XFL this year. Cuts out the middleman, sends all video directly to the replay booth. This on the heels of the NFL basically saying that whole Sean Payton experiment's over. Sean Payton bitching and moaning about challenging offensive interference, and that whole experiment's done. What a waste of our time, man. Really. Total, utter, just thorough waste of our time. Sean Payton got screwed over like so many of other coaches and players and professional athletes and front office people and managers and everybody has gone through it at some point. And unfortunately for Peyton, it happened at such a high level. Playoffs taken from him. He thought, let me pull a Belichick. I'm going to use my influence. I'm going to use my power that I have on a committee. And to be fair, it's probably not even a Belichick. It's more like a Fisher. See, Fisher would stick around on these committees. So he'd stick around and stay relevant, and prevalent are the two words that I tried to combine there. He'd stay relevant by staying prevalent on somebody's mind. Jeff Fisher, let's get him in there. I constantly see him popping around here, part of these competition committees and head coaching committees and all these committees. Guy was a head coach, a terrible head coach at best, and just staying around. Hey, a lot of committees. And I think there's something about Sean Payton using his influence, using whatever stand he had, fresh off being jobbed, and we all saw it. We all got it. I mean, the Saints were so petty, the fans holding their own Super Bowl parade, all of the nonsense that followed that. We're not going to relive that nightmare from everywhere else around the country where we had to just, like, as sports fans, really as football fans first and then sports fans, it's like, all right, enough. Come on. You're giving us all a bad name, a bad look here. Just move on. So Peyton just moaned and bitched and screamed and got his way like a toddler. And for a year, we had to sit through weird, uncomfortable at times replays that never really amounted to anything. It rarely got overturned. The numbers showed you that officials were either reluctant or scared, nervous to do it. So it didn't really work. It didn't sit. And it just moved on from it after this year, like it never happened. And yes, I think ultimately we can, thank goodness, move on because you don't have to deal with that anymore. But let's not forget how stupid it was in the first place. And I don't know what the hell the NFL was thinking. Did they need to compile data? Did they need to wait and see just how this thing would play out before they canceled it, before they nix it? No. You knew from the beginning this thing was stupid. You knew from the beginning all you were doing is just placating and getting Sean Payton off your back. But we all had to suffer through this with some stupid rule that nobody could really define and nobody could really enforce. So where were you? Stuck, just waiting for the NFL to define it or remove it. They did a good job removing it, but they created their own problem. All right? You're going to dig a 6-foot hole in my backyard and then fill it up and cover it with dirt and then plant grass on it. I'm not going to pat you on the back for doing that. Great job. I cannot believe, I would have tripped in that hole. I could have fallen in there. 6 feet, that's what I am. I'd be lucky if I could even move my arms. I might have broken my ankle or worse, leg. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, stranger, for helping me out and taking the time out of your day to fill that hole. Quarterback, game-winning drive. It's a little different, right? After you've put yourself in a hole, your team in a hole, throwing 2 or 3 picks in the first half. You're going to get credit to some extent, but don't dig the hole in the first place. Trevor from the 203 on Twitch shows me Sean Payton is that whiny teenager that everyone hates. There's something about it that now I think this makes Payton look worse than anything. Like the NFL, we're used to this, right? We're used to stupid decisions that we can all see a mile away from the NFL yelling, no, 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 this is our favorite sport. We love this sport. Stop doing this. Stop. And it's different. 2007, 2008, when they changed those rules to open up the game, you look back, the game is a completely different product at this point. It really is. I'm talking about quick little tinkering, subtle changes to something like this, which is, oh, by the way, you can now challenge offensive interference. What? Well, how the hell is that going to work? Doesn't matter. Just figure it out. Figure it out. Oh, it's okay, folks. We're going to close down this major street. Well, how do I get around here? Is there a detour? Is there anything out there I can see? No signs. Nobody put up anything. Is there anybody in the middle of the street, a town official, a police officer, anybody there that can help direct traffic? Is there an app I can follow? Is there a text alert that came out? No? You're just on your own? Figure it out? Okay. That's us as fans last year watching this thing. That was team A, team B. That was everybody last year trying to figure this thing out. Now, the NFL might have it right, and this is where, if you didn't pay attention to the XFL, you missed out on, yet again, another solid idea that I think we all as football fans were kind of up in the air about, thinking, well, what's going to happen here? Could the NFL take this and run with it? It does look, the Hawkeye instant replay system is a great idea. Of course, the NFL is only considering it, so who the hell knows? It's a solid idea. You cut the middleman out. Every single piece of video goes right to the replay booth. Those were the scenes in the broadcast where, if you were watching, you got to see whoever it was, the official in charge of the replay, going back and forth on the clip with the Xbox controller. I don't necessarily know if you're going to see that level of transparency, but for the NFL to implement the Hawkeye instant replay that we saw effectively used in the XFL this past season, it gives me some hope. Replay is far from anything perfect. It's a science right now that is still evolving because the NFL chooses to make this thing so damn difficult and complicated. But you might have at least one little thing here that pops, which is trying to make it easier and trying to streamline the process. Too many cooks in the kitchen is a perfect phrase to apply here. You've got too many replay officials to downfield officials, the umpire, everybody's getting in on this conversation. Send it right to the replay booth, right to the one person who's in charge of handling all that. It's that simple. It's that easy. Second level at Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. Call us 800-224-2004. one of the shows, John Brady responded at Winston's Dad 01, threw the question out, really just to give us more of a demand, if you will, not a question. Give us a sport or other television show. And a lot of people chose non-sports, which is fine. As you know, right now, that's a lot of what's going on. A sport you never thought you'd watch, a television show you never thought you would watch, but because of the quarantine, you thought, all right, let's do it. And since now, you've enjoyed it. And think about the semantics here. Think about the layout of the question. It's something that you purposely avoided. Jack threw out Ozark in the first hour. And as we were talking a little bit more in the break, it wasn't, he was trying to avoid it. It was more, all right, I convinced him talking about it. And he's like, let me go in and jump in on it. But the difference is you are avoiding it. You were avoiding it at least until you actually caught it. I gave you a couple. Psych, The Masked Singer, Mike Gill Show, The Americans on Amazon Prime and FX. See, I don't believe Mike. I know Mike. Worked for Mike. Top talent here in the Philadelphia, Jersey market, no doubt. But I don't believe him. I don't think that Gill was actively trying to avoid The Americans. Who would? I haven't been. I just haven't seen it. But I know it's a really good show. I've been told by people I trust it's a good show. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet. See the difference? The difference is it could be on your queue, probably is on your queue, but you thought, I don't have time. Versus there's just no way in hell I'm ever going to watch that show. And now your significant other, I mean, it's gotten to the point now where your dog is probably reciting Michael Scott lines from The Office. So give me something new. Give me something different. At Winston's Dad 01 tweeted, The Challenge. Obstacles, backstabbing, drama, old school peeps like, I don't know who this is, the official Connecticut CT, and Johnny Bananas. I don't know who these people are, but I guess they're old school peeps. So the show is called The Challenge, and I can tell you just by the pick that he associated with this, where it's a group of typical MTV, just, hey, let's get 30, 40 people and do a show, reality-based show. Looks exactly like you would expect. And some jackass in the middle as the host. So this fits the bill for me. For me, I would be like, there's no way. Like, I'm watching a picture of that show come to life. Pass. No way would I ever do anything like this. And see, I need the help of social media here because I have no idea. Where were you on this, John? I at least would have guessed you would have given me one of these people, CT or Johnny Bananas. You don't know who either one of these guys are?
I do not.
Okay. TJ Lavin is the host? I don't know. Really? Johnny Bananas, according to Trev on Twitch, is from the Real World Key West. And CT is from the Real World Paris. Man,
Those are reality shows, right?
Yes,
that's not my thing.
And this apparently is like another reality. It's a reality show of a reality show. You're just eating yourself at this point. Bro, I could not be more off something like this. I don't think you could pay me $50 in the middle of a pandemic. You give me a grocery cart full of food. Now, of course, I'd buy it and donate it to somebody in need here. I don't know of a scenario where there's nothing else on television at all to watch but this. I'd rather sit and watch the Below Deck Marathon or whatever. What's the other one? Vanderpump Rules. No, I don't think I'll ever. Maybe I'm desperate in a month and we'll come back and revisit this. We'll wrap the hour next, but I can't see myself going down John Brady's road and watching The Challenge. It's the second level.
Yes.
In a month, it's going to be your favorite.
Oh, man, you should have jumped in. That's perfect.
And decided you were going out on style.
City. In OKC, I played with a lot of athletes. I didn't play with.
All right. Well, I think we're set up for music-wise for the rest of the show.
Nice.
Change.
So, third hour, you can tweet. The UFC fell apart the anti-binge show of the week, and Stephen Muehlhausen's going to join us.
As a put down.
Okay, UFC fell apart. Steven Muehlhausen.
Yeah, I think. Did you book him for me at one point? Or was that Brendan?
It might have been Brendan.
Yeah, he's really. It's at S Muehlhausen Jr. Muehlhausen Jr.
Okay, I'll find him. What was the second one?
The anti-binge show of the week. Yep.
Wake up call. I mentioned the draft is going to be a virtual event. We kind of know that. You know, everybody's going to be in home locations and everybody on computers and whatnot. But how many of us will be watching this just to see if it falls apart? Since the aspect of the draft, over teams didn't pick and what teams did what, who moved up in the draft to get who, and all of that we normally do. But how many of us are watching for the Joe Burrow feed to just collapse at the right time?
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
Urban River Stadium joining us here, pushing the odds. What are you hearing from athletic directors and coaches about their preparations for what may or may not happen coming up this fall?
As far as the athletic directors, I mean, they've got a number of contingency plans, whether that starts in late August as scheduled or maybe even gets pushed back to the spring. The NFL had a place football does not need to bring back 3,000 on campus. College football does. But I just think it's very unrealistic that all of these major university presidents will feel confident enough to say, you know what, to all of our students all over the world, it's now safe to come back on campus and take football.
No, I think I might have booked them for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, looking at them, I'm like, oh, yeah.
The semifinals from the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the national title game from Miami going on maybe as late as Memorial Day.
Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
All right, listen up, pay attention. Hey, what's up, SB Nation? It's your boy, Scotty Farrell. Starting April 14th, I'm back weeknights with Sports Grid from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's Farrell coast to coast. My degenerate gambling buddy Gabe Morency comes off the bench at 6 p.m. with game time decision.
That's Tuesday?
As soon as that hiatus is over, I'm back in your face, man. Right, eat it.
Yes, I think it's Tuesday.
An in-game live. It's Farrell on Sports Grid. And I'm back on SB Nation Radio, baby.
Big L, rest in peace.
You're listening to The Second Level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios with way more than the scores. Here's 8.
Mike's out.
More and more and more. See, it's just the same sound and the same approach to the hook. Samples that of records thrown in there. Doesn't matter who it is. It's an amazing sound, man. Primo has in such a at times redundant genre, and I don't mean that as a negative. He just was able to stand alone with simplicity. Now we'll go to RZA in hour 3, hour 2 with John. But we'll go to RZA moving forward, and you'll hear the difference. There's genius in simplicity, but there's genius in complexity as well. Did that even make sense?
Kinda.
Oh, man. The UFC fell apart. What happened to that promise? We'll get to that next here in the second level. Nice, man. Thank you.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Headed to Texas to watch your team play, but don't know where to go for that pregame drink? Visit CultureMap.com for all of the hottest spots in Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dining dens, CultureMap has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sights? CultureMap has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out CultureMap.com. That's CultureMap.com. Headed Headed to Texas to watch your team play, but don't know where to go for that pregame drink? Visit CultureMap.com for all of the hottest spots in Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dining gems, CultureMap has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sights? CultureMap has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out CultureMap.com. That's CultureMap.com.
Wake up call. Wimbledon has been paying out $2 million every year for the past 17 years on insurance for a pandemic. And so they've paid $34 million into this insurance. They're going to collect over $100 million from the insurance policy.
Yeah, how much easier was it for them to cancel the tournament once you learned that?
Shame on me, because I thought it was grass. Thought it was
grass.
Yeah, like you got to dried out grass in August or the fall. You can't hold Wimbledon on its grass court. Little did I know that this was an easy decision to cancel this bad boy and collect themselves $100+ million. Oh, we won't be having Wimbledon this year. All in favor say aye. Aye. Great. The ayes have it. Anybody want to process that claim?
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings.
Hey everybody, RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's BloggingTheBoys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the web. And did you know that we have a podcast feed? The Blogging the Boys podcast feed has daily episodes breaking down the latest and greatest in the world of America's team. We have multiple shows, multiple analysts, including a Super Bowl winner, two-time Super Bowl champion Tony Casillas is part of our rotation, and we want to make sure you are as well. We're available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So don't miss out. Subscribe to the Blogging the Boys podcast feed today.
SB Nation Tonight with John Michaels.
What event do you think you'd have any chance of actually getting done? I'm trying to think. I would probably have to learn how to do one of those shooting events. I was never going to be able to do the javelin. I never could have done the shot put. I'm scared of heights, so I damn sure wasn't going to try to do the pole vault and jump over something 20 feet in the air. I don't know that there was anything I could have done. Like the swimming? No. I damn sure wasn't diving unless we could have done a cannonball off the top of the platform. I'm not diving into the water and flipping around like a maniac. You know what? Maybe if I trained for like a year, I might have a shot to play some ping pong against somebody. Although, actually, no. But those dudes are like 40 feet off the table, and they're... And that thing's like... The ball's just flying everywhere. I can never do that either. So I don't think there's anything I can do in the Olympics.
SB Nation Tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Wake up calls.
Please, God, if it does come to that, can we have the Walking Dead zombies not be World War Z?
Yeah, I don't even fast moving.
Superhuman. I'm running a World War Z zombie.
I'm the guy you bring because secretly know I can't keep up with the rest of the group. Hey, I'm going to take Bob and Jim and Tony. You come with us too. And everybody knows why you're bringing me. So push comes to shove. I'm the meal.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings. Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
This is the problem for a sport like baseball. It is an outdoor sport that must be played in nice weather. And the window for nice weather in certain parts of the country, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, is quite small. I actually am somebody who believes that baseball should be going and playing in Arizona and in Florida once this thing calms down. And I think having teams be centrally located, I think finding a facility, a hotel that probably is empty, and putting your team there, it stinks. You're going to be away from your family. You're going to be away from your normal life. But that, to me, is a must. I just don't see how in the world you put, like, the New York Yankees in New York. Like, how?
Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault. Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Tom Phillips, Earl Campbell, Dan Pastorini, the lovely Blue Era Houston Oilers. Experience 1970s football with red, white, and Columbia Blue. The new audiobook at Houston79.com. A game-by-game recap of the 1979 Houston Oilers season, featuring player interviews and new insights. Step into the huddle for legendary games against the Steelers and Cowboys, and relive one of the most controversial plays ever, the Mike Renfro play. Red, white, and Columbia Blue. Download now at Houston79.com.
You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? How much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. Besthotelrates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great hotel and room choices for the best prices. Why wait? Go to besthotelrates.com, enter your email address, and start shopping for your next hotel room. Besthotelrates.com, it's in the name. Besthotelrates.com.
Set your system's volume control or slightly above the normal listening level.
Second level thinking is defined as looking beyond the easy, obvious conclusions.
You gotta do some smart thinking.
Welcome to the second level. On SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Where we go beyond the box score. Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is with you every step of the way. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's your host,
Mike's hot.
I understand that we are cooped up, locked in, quarantined, losing our minds. I get all of that. And everybody has now been inundated with the one's got to go or pick three and all the other stuff that just flies around social media. And sometimes what happens is, especially if you're in the content providing business, you have to stretch and find ways to compare a couple of things. And you need to go beyond, of course, stuff like LeBron or MJ, who you got? And nobody gives a damn, at least not longer than a day, if lucky, to go back and forth on T-Mac or Melo. I don't understand why it's gotten to the point now where we're disrespecting. Like, you don't need to be, I get that we're bored and we're crazy, but we don't need to be disrespectful. This was a couple of days ago. I thank my buddy Coggin Toboggan for alerting me of this on Twitter. Yahoo Sports, April 9th, better movie, Major League or Sandlot. Now, you don't need to be at a point to express to the world how bored you are that you have to start disrespecting movies. No shade, nothing wrong with The Sandlot. But if you can't understand the genius of Major League and how it is one of the most, if not the, you could argue that Major League is the most entertaining sports movie of all time. And I mean that from a comedic standpoint, yes. I'm not going to compare it. Entertaining is a wide term. That's why broad, if you will. That's why I defined it more so from a comedic standpoint. I don't think you can compare The Natural to Major League, like you shouldn't be comparing Sandlot to Major League. Just because baseball's played in both movies doesn't mean that you should be comparing them. I mean, I'm sure I can find a random ingredient in Coca-Cola and something completely opposite of it. It doesn't mean that, well, look, it's got one of the same ingredients, the same. Ugh, stop the.
Introducing
Damn it. Trying to sneak it in there, but didn't work.
Latest vehicles.
I like Sandlot though.
Yeah, but not better than Major League.
No, not better than Major League.
That's all.
But Sandlot was probably my favorite movie.
It's a fantastic. I'm with you. See, I'm with you, man. Sandlot is a fantastic movie. It's a great movie that was more than a kid's movie. It was like a teen movie, not even a tween movie, but it was a good teenager movie, right? And something you could rewatch freshman, sophomore in college. I get that, and I think it was a necessary movie. But Major League,
it's not.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't have a movie like that before Major League came out.
RocketMortgage.com. Call for cost information and conditions.
It was a one of a kind for sure.
ConsumerAccess.org.
That's what I think really got me.
Account worth more than $100,000? Pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Gold is a better way. Gold is a better way to protect your retirement. A better way to grow your retirement. And better than everything you're currently doing inside your retirement account. At Advantage Gold, we're certain that gold is going higher in price and going to outperform stocks and bonds. We've created the world's America's first gold protection retirement platform ever.
Wow.
If you have an IRA or 401k, you can get your free.
What's the one you were just playing before that?
But to agree.
Oh, oh my goodness. That's incarcerated Scarface right there. Man, you're just.
You can join the site for free. Just call now.
RZA is just.
800-908-2174. 800-908-2174. 800-908-2174. That's 800-908-2174.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news. Now you can finally get Viagra at a huge discount. Generic sildenafil allows you to save up to $650 on Viagra. Why pay name brand prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get the same results for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 50 generic sildenafil pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $750 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill for the name brand again.
Hey, quick question. Do you have generic imaging with me? Like from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio. Here's Eitan Shander.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have all that. The last time you wanted us to keep.
Oh no. Yes. Completely. Yeah. I'm everything you're doing is fantastic. What I'm going to do though, I think moving forward is I'm going to go once we have the main show. I'm going to use the second level imaging and then go to generic stuff. Like this won't be its own show. It's just me on the air.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dealing with the root of the issues. It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio.
Mike's hot.
I'm Shander.
We've moved into the RZA hour, and you can just hear the difference in complexity. And yes, there is some similarity because it's a rap beat that you're going to hear repetitiveness, but the elements, I mean, you're talking about at least 10, 11 more tracks of individual elements to make this song. It's also, and this is where I think a lot of people just gave RZA the edge, who's rapping on his songs versus who might be rapping on Premier's songs. This right here, Motherless Child, you might have one of Ghostface's best verse ever in here. Brad Wheelless at Longhorn78 on Twitter. And you can follow along, watch the show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. It's free to subscribe. Speaking of baseball movies that were released on April 9th, you forgot Bad News Bears, maybe the best of the three. So I tagged Coggin in there just to get his thoughts on it. This is Bad News Bears is amazing. Top 5 baseball movie of all time, probably top 3. So what we need to do is define all time, because I can't put a movie like The Natural in there, right? Now that's why I think it's difficult to take dramatic themes and line them up and expect them to fit like comedic themes. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to you? Because I want everybody, if you follow along, to walk through the same process that my mind is walking through here. You can't look at it and it's like centers, right? I saw Bill Walton talk about the best college basketball player of all time. It's not MJ, it's Kareem. You cannot, I don't care if you're talking college basketball or the NBA or the CBA or the G League or the South Korean Basketball League. You cannot compare Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to LeBron James, Michael Jordan. You just can't. That's why you take centers out. You always take centers out. Well, who's the best player of all time? It could be Mike. It could be LeBron, maybe Kobe, however you look at it. You can't throw centers in there. First off, it's Wilt. I think if you don't know that, then you have to at least accept that for the time being with me. Go back, listen to Sunny Hill. You can find him. No, we're talking about the original one, right? The old school Billy Bob one, the original. No remake here, right? Way back one with, was it Walter Matthau? I'm just saying, and I don't know how we compare Bad News Bears to The Natural. That's the only difference. At Shander Show live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. Stephen Muehlhausen's going to join us 25 minutes, pardon me, from now. A couple of things have happened in both the UFC and WWE, two worlds that Stephen covers as well as anybody. The Ronda Rousey departure, torching some fans on the way out. Also, somebody not in ring, not dealing with the in-ring action, tested positive for COVID-19 in WWE. So have to figure out now what happens with Vince McMahon as they continue to try and provide live action. But the other thing was Dana White and this proclamation that a fight would be happening last night. There was supposed to be a UFC fight last night. There was supposed to be action, a pretty big card last night. Greg Hardy was supposed to fight last night, not the main event, but he was up there. We didn't get any of it because Dana White pushed and pushed until the state came back, until California, Nevada, everybody came back and said, dude, what the hell are you doing? And he purposely did not disclose where this was going to happen right up until he had to, because he knew ultimately he ain't going to win this one. This isn't about zoning. This isn't about clearing a fighter. This isn't about other bureaucratic things that might happen where you're able to skirt around it a little bit. There's a little extra pay. Come on, we're the UFC, kickbacks, things like that can happen. Or just things that might be discussed and agreed upon on the level. Doesn't have to be shady or backdoor dealing. Can be on the level as well. Instead, it was just, I know what I'm doing. I'm pushing here. And I'm going to make this thing happen. And White backtracked, especially after he was left with no other option because it was taken away from him, and rightfully so. The whole thing was stupid to continue to do this, especially on American soil. How tone deaf can you possibly be? And it doesn't mean that, the UFC, so I heard Shander, man, is anti-UFC. No, none of that. He's ripping the UFC. First wrestling and now the UFC, man. No, it doesn't mean that it shouldn't return. It doesn't mean that it can't thrive when it does. But I truly wonder right now what we would have gained from having that card last night amidst a ton of risk for setting it up, for violating a lot of standards that have been in practice and in place around the country. And if you are, rightfully so, going to rip people in the public eye for not adhering to the same standards that you and myself and others have been mandated, I don't care where you are. Brooklyn, Philly, Houston, Des Moines, Sioux City, I don't give a crap where you are right now. Miami to Spokane. You've been mandated to stay at home for the most part. Some cases, you go out, you're in trouble. And then you see, well, a UFC fight. Basketball, we talked about an hour ago, needs 3 weeks just to tell you when they can think about coming back. And even then, you're going to need a couple of days. In fact, John, if we can, let's get that Brian Windhorst cut one more time. This is the 25-day plan. And before we listen to this, we'll take you back to Adam Silver, who said, hey, guys, don't come even ask me anything. Don't talk to me about anything until May 1st. I don't have a timeline. I don't have a concept of a timeline. I don't even have an idea of what a timeline looks like. No idea until at least May 1st. So that doesn't mean, hey, come talk to me at May 1st and then I'll have answers. It means I won't even know what the whole landscape looks like. And even still, you're not going to get May 1st, jump right back into it. Even still, it's going to be a little bit deeper into May where you get the plan to return. So What happens when you get the all clear, which would be somewhere, let's say a month from now, if we're lucky. If we're lucky, 30 days from right now is mid-May. Then, as Brian Windhorst said on SportsCenter earlier today, you have this plan implemented.
They're spending a lot of time, Jay, getting a back-to-basketball plan ready. They hope they get to use it. And when talking to executives and trainers around the league, what they're looking at is a 25-day return-to-basketball window. Hopefully, at some point, they can enact it. An 11-day series of individual workouts, whether it be social distancing for a period of time. And then, hopefully, if the clearance comes, if they can play 5-on-5 basketball, a 14-day training camp. So as you hope for the country to heal and the virus to get better, look for at least about a 3.5 to 4 week return date before you never get back to game.
3.5 to 4 week, 25 days. So let's be fair. That's a month. 28 days. That's February. And even still, what's the difference between another week just to be precautionary, just to be safe? We're not talking about, hey, it's it, all clear, rush back into this. You already know that you're only going to get half of the league, most likely, right? 1 through 8. You can't just arbitrarily cut teams off. You can, however, shorten it. Is it going to cheapen it for people? You know, that's something that I don't think we've talked about. And in Philly, where I am, it's a little different than the NHL. NHL returns based on how the Flyers were playing. There's a legit conversation about if the goalie Carter Hart could maintain how well he's playing, Brian Elliott spelling him at a high level. Other things were falling in place. Yeah, it would take a little bit of, and I hate to even use the term long shot, but inside Philadelphia, people felt more confident about the Philadelphia Flyers' chance to make a run than they did about the Sixers getting out of the first round. Mainly because the Sixers were poised to open up the first round on the road, a place where they looked like a G League team. Health or not, condition or not, it didn't look like it was going to do anything as far as a run was concerned or magic turned around for this Sixers team. But I wonder if you look around where you are and your squad that you're rooting for, especially if your team is out, because let's be fair, I don't care what the circumstances are. If your team wins in a strike-shortened season, if your team wins in a year in which there's a pandemic that forced the premature ending of the season and some tournament, best of 3 first round, and then maybe even second round into this small arena, are you going to look at that and say, well, as much as I love my team, and as much as I love the chance to celebrate a championship, this just doesn't feel right. You might say it right now. You might believe it right now, but that is as contrarian of an opinion as it gets. There's no way, even if you really honestly believe that you believe it, you've been programmed. You're part of Westworld. We'll get to that coming up next, but you've been programmed. You're a bot. You're a host. You're an egg account on Twitter with 23 followers that are all sex bots. Get out. You don't honestly believe. You're not going to be. And what are you going to do? You're going to show up to the parade? Are you going to be there? Main Street, Broad Street, wherever the hell, whatever big street it is? Can you imagine that? I mean, let's see. I don't know. Stranger things have happened, right? I mean, think about this. And I'll just ask you, John, first up. Live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show, at Shander Show. It's second level here. Houston Rockets win a shortened season, really this playoff, right? Crazy things have happened. Everybody's sequestered in this hotel or two in Vegas. They're playing in this one arena. They're making sure everything works safe. Rockets wind up winning it. They get crowned world champions in 2020 this year. A, are you anti, which I can't believe you are if you are. B, if you're anti, are you going to be showing up? Are you going to be that guy walking around being like, we really didn't win this thing? Who would be?
That's a good question. I wouldn't be anti, but there would definitely be there's definitely some kind of an asterisk. I don't want to call it that next to it because half the teams aren't you don't know how they're able to prepare or not prepare for going back into this.
Look, I would not for a second invite any opportunity for people to criticize how my team won a championship. On the flip side, if, I don't know, the Boston Celtics win the world championship, win the NBA championship, if the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup in similar fashion, you're damn right I'm yelling at the top of my lungs it was fraudulent. Absolutely. But don't you think everybody will? And that's what I was saying. We'll touch on that. Also, the anti-binge watch of the week coming up. But think about it. Like, will there be anybody outside of the actual fan base of the team that wins that will accept a championship or a cup in this year's playoffs?
No, but they're just going to have to. I mean, it's just going to have to be how it is.
You're right. Ultimately, we wake up, go to bed, wake up the next day, and nothing's changed. But we bitch about everything. I wonder how long that would last. I wonder that asterisk, how long it would be brought up, especially
Probably all the way through the next season at least.
Yeah, and maybe even further, depending on the team. If it's a really hateable team, absolutely.
Oh, it's a hateable team, yeah, for sure.
Right. That, the anti-binge watch of the week coming up next. That's Shander Show. It's the second level.
Wake up, call. Whose country do we trust enough to say they go, you can go back to work, you can go to sports arenas, and then we go, absolutely, thanks.
Is it Dr. Fossey?
Is it him? Because he's like, we may never be able to shake hands ever again.
Why are you Dr. Fossey boys one step away from Gilbert Gottfried?
I know, right? On the one hand, I want to know what the other hand is doing. And my Dr. Fauci impression is more like, well, it's more like, if you have two people in a room, it's better if one of them moves. So in the future, let's say you're taking your family to a restaurant and there's 4 of you. It's better to just get 4 tables. And please limit the visitation to maybe once every 2 weeks. That would be the best. To keep this completely under control.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings.
All right, listen up, pay attention. Hey, what's up, SB Nation? It's your boy, Scotty Farrell. Starting April 14th, I'm back weeknights with Sports Grid from 4 to 6 Eastern. It's Farrell coast to coast. My degenerate gambling buddy, Gabe Morency, comes off the bench at 6 p.m. with Game Time Decision. And then as soon as that hiatus is over, I'm back in your face, man. Right, in your face! For another hour at 7 Eastern with In-Game Live. It's Farrell on Sports Grid. And I'm back on SB Nation Radio, baby.
SB Nation tonight with John Michaels.
Let's not fool ourselves. 17 games is coming, period. The NFL realizes right now, if we go to 17 games, you know what that is? More money. You're going to get basically 2 more weeks of programming out of all of this. The extra game and the extra bye week, the NFL can milk that for more money out of the television networks. For the television networks, it's simple. For all the BS talk of fans who were out there that said, look, we're going to boycott the game for whatever. Whether it was players off the field activities, whether it was kneeling for the flag, whether it was the game changing in the way they're taking away some of the hard hits. People said they weren't going to participate, not going to watch. Like 9 of the top 10 programs throughout the year are NFL games. So say whatever you want, people are consuming the National Football League. And if the NFL looks at this and says, I can make more money by having more games, they're going to have more games.
SB Nation tonight, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. Introducing AutomotiveMap.com, a brand new website for anyone interested in what's happening in the world of automobiles. From reviews on the latest vehicles to vintage rides to tips on keeping your family safe on the road, AutomotiveMap.com has something for you. If you love cars, trucks, and SUVs and the amazing technology hitting your favorite showroom, check out the brand new AutomotiveMap.com.
I think you're going to like this one.
Nice.
Scratching beneath the surface. It's It's the second level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here.
Mike's hot.
Now, just because RZA, aka Bobby Digital, has so many songs that have been tracked with 14 to 20 to 60 different elements, doesn't mean he can't bring you something beautiful in its simplicity, like you have here with Shimmy Shimmy Yawn, ODB. And look, that's what made him so unique as far as a rapper is concerned. He just was on a completely different level and playing, yelling and screaming and singing and rapping everything in his own words and language. You thought Ghost and Ray had their own language. This dude was on something else, and it was entertaining. But that's probably one of the best examples of how subtle the genius can be in the RZA's production. You look at ODB's album and listen to all of the different tracks that RZA produced on there. Even if you take out not that you should or need to, you take out the verbal antics of ODB on it, these are some really well and thickly produced, heavy produced tracks that are unique, don't repeat or sound similar, and really would stand alone, anybody rapping on it. Now, tonight is the return of Westworld 30 minutes from now. 9 minutes, we'll chat with Stephen Muehlhausen at S. Muehlhausen Jr. Get ahead and follow this man on Twitter. As two things we mentioned, one in UFC, the other in WWE. We'll get Stephen's thoughts on. He covers both, and some other things in combat sports as well as anybody. UFC, we were promised Fight Island, and I don't know what's going to happen there. It already fell apart right in front of our hands. Just right there, we had it. We were holding on to a card last night, but it's gone. It crumbled, and that's it. No more. Fight Island is a pretty big dream. The idea of it happening is similar to not the premise itself, but the physicality of like a Westworld. Some island, some private island, not even off the coast, but like deep sea, far out in the middle of the Pacific, where China, I think, was maybe, or Singapore, actually, technically where they are in the show, but in between, if you can even look at in between, and that shows you how vast of a body of water you're traveling. But in that area, just out in the middle of nowhere, to have an island like that even going on, where nobody would have any idea, of course, until something like this happens. And you're going to Westworld, you're blindfolded, you don't know where you are, you don't know when you leave. It's all together, just like this Fight Island. And the concept fell apart. The concept I can't see continuing to happen, despite White's proclamation. Don't worry, it's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see when push comes to shove if people are going to sign off on this, if there's going to be enough belief that people are safe when it comes to this. And, of course, if White and his crew can keep people safe. It's not just as a fighter you feel safe. As a participant, you feel good. All right, and you got what you needed here, and sign a waiver and blindfold yourself there and back, and you're good to go. UFC has to keep this thing safe as well. UFC, Dana White can't afford one small outbreak or it's over. One, and you're cooked. This whole thing blows up in your face, even more so because you've isolated everybody in an area where, surge or not, you don't have the capabilities. You're not going to be able to bring the medical capabilities to handle everybody in worst case scenario. So think about that line you're walking simply by inviting this, both people and the virus, on some small island. That's why it makes great sense on paper for the NBA to do something like this in a quarantine sealed off radius. But in order to really make it work, you're going to have to set up some sort of compound. You're going to have to set up some sort of demilitarized zone where it's going to be, I don't know, a 5 mile radius, something like that. and you're going to have tanks and fences and everything around it. National Guard, Army, what have you, private security force. You're going to have round the clock monitoring to where you can't get in. It's like, all right, we got everybody in. Now keep them in and make sure nobody gets in. And of course, nobody gets out. That's what you really need. That's why the whole thing with baseball can't work. That's why a 25-mile radius in Greater Phoenix can't work, because you're not going to be able to lock everybody in. You're not going to be able to establish that wide of some sort of compound and make sure that everybody in there stays in there. You've got people, you've got essential personnel, people that live in and around those lines that would make up the radius. It's too much. It's too much to account for bodies. It's too much to account for people that are constantly moving around. So instead, your best bet is to find one small area. But the NBA is walking on eggshells right now, telling you, don't come talk until May 1st. And even then, once we figure this thing out, as Brian Windhorst, you heard the cut 2 times over, 25 days at least. Meanwhile, Dana White's like, yeah, this whole thing fell apart, but don't worry. We got Fight Island still. Sticking to that. We'll see how realistic this is. Stephen Muehlhausen joins us next. At Shander Show, live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shander Show. It is the second level.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During the challenging times we're all experiencing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that'll never change is our commitment to giving you the best mortgage experience. At Rocket Mortgage, our guiding philosophy of every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses, exists for times like right now. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. If you currently work with us and need assistance with your mortgage, contact us 24/7 at rocketmortgage.com. As we all think about ways to save money, let me remind you that mortgage rates are near historic lows. If you think right now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available.
Oh, you know what? Do you have, you should look up $150 instrumental. Buck, B-U-C. John, you hear me? Yo, John. John.
Yeah, what's up?
You should look up $150 instrumental Ghostface.
$150 instrumental?
Yes. $150 instrumental. First thing that pops up is Ghostface. Killer, $150 instrumental YouTube. Man, this might be RZA's best night.
Hi, I'm Clay Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text MAINE to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text MAINE to 321321. That's MAIN.
Yeah, just can you confirm his last name that we're saying it right? I believe it's Muehlhausen. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. Besthotelrates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering a great hotel and room service for the best prices. Why wait? Go to besthotelrates.com, enter your email address, and start shopping for your next hotel room. Besthotelrates.com. It's in the name. Besthotelrates.com. I didn't have enough.
Oh, no. It didn't have to be right now, man. All good. All good, brother.
listening to The Second Level on SB Nation Radio.
And on SBNationRadio.com.
We'll do the other one for the very end.
All good, my friend.
Quicken Loans from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios with way more than the scores. Here's Eitan.
Well, it's been an interesting couple of days, right? As we scratch the surface, and that's really all we'll do without an expert. Thankfully, we have one of the top ones in the business when it comes to combat sports around, including the World Wrestling, issue here with Ronda Rousey and a couple of shots at fans. But Dana White promises, and now based off logistics and reality, we didn't get the card we thought we would get locally, but that doesn't mean Fight Island is done. Maybe it is. I don't know. Stephen Muehlhausen joins us at S. Muehlhausen Jr. on Twitter. Boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, everything you need to know and beyond at Sporting News, DAZN as well. Stephen, Eitan Shander at SB Nation Radio here on The Second Level. Appreciate you joining us again, man. Thanks for the time tonight. Hope you, your family, everybody is safe out in Chicago.
Wow, thank you, and you two guys out in the radio room. And it's weird. I was just talking to someone, and a friend of mine. It's weird having to go to the grocery store and other places with the mask on, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and sooner rather than later, things are going to get back to normal.
Well, I think the conversation from a sport standpoint, Stephen, is a little different with you covering the UFC, where you just had a cancellation. It's not like the NBA, the NHL, NFL's off season, right? So they can say whatever the hell they want about being back or not months from now. College football, the same. But let's just use your example, which is you, myself, people listening, watching. We've been through that. You go to a Target, you go to the grocery store, it's masks, gloves, everybody is tense, and rightfully so. And then up until 2 days ago, we were believing that there was going to be a UFC fight. It kind of went opposite to what's happening in our society.
It's mind-boggling in the fact that, we're, like you said, the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, MLS, NASCAR, the Premier League, you have all these major sports entities around the world shutting down, and then here you got Dana White saying, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want, and it was like the whole thing of he felt like he was the big bad wolf. All these other sporting heads are cowards. What are you guys doing? Sports need to be happening. I love the tenacity because you can feel the passion of how much he loves the UFC. There's more to it, but just the pure passion of it. But this time, it bit him more accounts, and he came off really bad here. And MMA, as much as he helped the UFC, in this situation, UFC came off very minor league.
Yeah, and I wonder now if that puts more pressure on him, in your opinion, to make this Fight Island happen, or more pressure on him to abort the idea?
With his mentality and the numerous times I've talked to him, being in the covering the sport for almost 10 years now, he's going to move forward. That's the one thing. He knows one way and one way only, and that's moving forward. His idea is not to move back. He's been insistent. Fight Island, as crazy and ludicrous as the idea is, it's still going to happen. I commend him for it. It's a very bad idea. So everyone thinks, okay, this is cool. Yeah, we're gonna fight on an island. Okay, it sounds cool in theory. If nothing else was going on in the world, and it was just, hey, we're gonna construct like 2 months worth of shows. This is where we're gonna do it. Just to do something different would be awesome. It'd be great. A different thing to bring to fight sports. But doing it to skirt government regulations and spit in the face of the government and spit in the face of the American people. Not just the American people, but people around the world.
Yep.
That's what this is at the end of the day. It's trying to be defiant to the world. You're putting your staff and you're putting your fighters at risk. And more importantly, you're ruining the reputation of the sport. Something he helped create. You think at the UFC, Dana White's one of the first 5 names that's in the conversation. And rightfully so for what he's done. But at the end of the day, right Now, Dana White has stained his name. He's done it pretty bad, and he's got no one to blame for that but himself.
So, to your point about moving forward and the mentality of Dana White, right up until, as you reiterated, the damage that White has done, at the very least from a PR standpoint, in your opinion and in your interactions with fighters, outside of White now, the people like working for White, I'm talking about the actual fighters, on or off the record, what's the general sense? If this thing is a go, are fighters reluctant to go and partake? Are fighters, hell yeah, let's go out, make some money? Or do you think people are going to be like, dude, I don't care what's going on, I'm not doing this?
It's been split among the fighters I talked to.
Interesting.
On and off record. And it's been a lot. It isn't just like a handful. I would say in excess of about 50 fighters. And management I've spoken to as well, representing fighters and trying to get a sense of the feel for how their fighters, who they represent, are feeling towards this. And it's split. On one hand, and I totally understand, I'm pro-fighter. This is not bashing on social media. And I know me and you messaged me a little bit, and I've had other people message me saying, hey, you're keeping up the good fight.
Yeah.
Like, we're defending the fighters in this situation.
But they seem upset at you that you defended them.
Exactly. Like I've had managers texting me, go at me on Twitter, texting me, DM me, and it's like, wait a minute. We're defending you here. We're defending your client. It's a matter of the fact that it's when Dana blames the media for everything. The fighters and the natural reaction of the fighters is going to be like, well, yeah. So they're going to get a lot of guys. They're going to be like, well, it's their fault. And then you get the fans that, are going to call on the door and say, oh, it's media's fault. They're targeting the fighters from fighting. All we tried to do, and I'll defend the media, all we tried to do at the end of the day was without the fighters. Without the fighters, there's no UFC, there's no Bellator, there's no boxing, there's nothing, there's no cage sports in general if it's not for the fighters. The fighters provide the entertainment. The fighters are the ones risking their lives every time they step into the cage or they step into a ring. It isn't a joke. And it was very upsetting. As a media member, it's like, what are you doing? You're not seeing this here. We're trying to defend you. You deserve to be paid. You should be getting paid more money. You're putting your life on the line, while these other guys are sitting there making money off of you. You're getting pennies on the dollar. What these guys are raking in, and if we're going to be real about it, it's the honest to God truth. And I said it to every manager. And every manager did not respond to that. Because they know the situation. They know it is correct. Now, thankfully, for this card, I don't know about the cards that were hands up through indefinitely. At least the end of this month. There's one more card, I think, on April 25th. I know for UFC 249, thankfully, the fighters are getting paid. But I shouldn't have to say thankfully. It's unfortunate the fact that they're so... To the UFC, it's more about the entertainment and making money off the fighters. Fighters, it comes off in this situation, the fighters are coming off as circus animals. And that shouldn't be the case. These are real people with real-life problems, and they're going through a lot as well. And they were going through the ultimate sacrifice. And their boss, all he wanted to do was trot them out there and fight. And I thought that was unfortunate. And so did a lot of other media members.
Stephen, I'm curious, at S. Muehlhausen Jr., is how you follow Stephen on Twitter, Sporting News, DAZN USA as well. On that point of resistance and even supporting what Dana White is doing, let's move past the next month or so with Fight Island. If you look at some of the reports that are coming out, and again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. In some cases, if it's coming like from China, then you might take it with a couple of grains. I get that. But, you are seeing evidence of areas around the world, especially in that region, that were hit hard, reopening and starting to return to some sense of normalcy. Do you see in the next maybe month and a half, Stephen, Dana White being like, look, I don't need to have my own island. I can have a fight sanctioned in South Korea or China or something along those lines?
I don't think he'll cross international waters, so the Atlantic, the Asian. I know some people, I got some friends in Japan in the pro wrestling industry, and they were trying to start back up, and they postponed shows through the rest of this month. And I think Ryan said at the beginning of May. It seemed like things are starting to get okay in South Korea and Japan, and then they hit another roadblock.
Right.
And I think China's starting to get a little bit of normalcy. I know they still have very strict guidelines of what's going on, but it's going to get better. I still think it's in my mind. I don't think we see fighting until I think the beginning of June. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this thing gets over very quickly and we can see fights again. But to be realistic and give a timeline, I would say at least another 4 to 6 weeks. We're not going to see fights.
That's fair. And to be honest, that's pretty much on point with a lot of the timelines from the team sports as well, which is without fans, of course, but even starting to begin, like the winter sports, even starting to get back NBA, NHL along those lines. So it does add up as far as, a similar timeline.
You want to get the right protocol thing.
Right.
That's the most important thing in this matter. You want to get it right. I understand, like the UFC, they said the other day to ESPN, I want to be first. We're going to be first. It's not a matter of being first. It's a matter of getting this right and making sure you're taking every precaution. Let everything die down, then get right. If Dana White comes out in 4 weeks and says, you know what, I'm putting on a fight card in 2 weeks, and if everything is what like me, you see and I see and a lot of other people are saying, then okay, yeah. As long as you have, and you're doing it here. Don't be going out and having fights on islands and jumping on airplanes across the ocean and all this other weird stuff that makes no sense. If you're doing it here, you're being safe. And when all the proper medical people can be here, then yeah, well, let's do it. Let's get back to seeing baseball and basketball and hockey and soccer and racing and fighting. And, as long as everything's in place, I'm okay with fights. And I'm okay with seeing other sports. But it has to be right and it has to be done safely. And that's the most important thing right now.
Okay, so let's assume everything is done right, everything is done in a safe manner. When's the next time and in what capacity are we going to see Ronda Rousey fight? She's going right back.
We won't see her ever, I don't think, again in the UFC. I wish we would. I think the way she went out, I thought we lose back-to-back fights, and you get starched pretty bad, especially in the minute. So you lost in under a minute. But I think those days for her are done. We'll see her in wrestling again. I think we'll see her this year. As long as everything gets somewhat, as long as the fans are in attendance and fans are able to get in the arenas, I think you'll see her this year. If not, then I think you will see her there next year's WrestleMania when it's out in Los Angeles. But you will see. I don't think she ever fights again, but we'll see her in the wrestling ring. Absolutely.
Was this all on purpose, ripping fans and everything? Everything is calculated in that sport, so it's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
I do know, talking to a couple people around her, when she wrestled in Los Angeles at Staples Center in Survivor Series in 2018, she got booed pretty bad coming out of that. And people were wanting her to see her butt kicked a little more than she did. And she got beat up pretty good. And she got jaded really good. And that really frazzled her. And that's always the thing with her psyche. She's got a very fragile psyche. She's one of those individuals. She wants everyone to like her. You don't need everyone to like you. You're Ronda Rousey.
Sounds like George Costanza. Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. She's a fantastic athlete. You can't take nothing away from her athletic ability. What she did for mixed martial arts, she put mixed martial arts on another level that not many thought it could reach. And now she did that. She conquered that. She said, you know what? She's done a wrestling fan. Always been a fan of Roddy Piper. She wanted to get into pro wrestling, and she got in, and I don't think she managed it, but she caught on, for the most part, really well. She made some mistakes, and those were evident. But what she was able to do in terms of pay structure for some of the women's wrestlers,
get to a break.
Main event of WrestleMania and the world's largest media market.
Right.
That says a lot. She's made an unbelievable impact for attitude is pretty bad.
Yep.
She's got a bad attitude. She blames a lot of things on others, and I think she needs to look in the mirror more than she does. And she's got a lot of yes people around her, not enough people telling her no. I think that's a major issue with her.
Stephen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You can't take away her being an asshole.
I really appreciate it, man. Unfortunately, I'm up on that hard break, but I'm first and foremost glad to hear you're doing well. And thanks as always for the conversation, man. We've got a lot to look forward to, so we'll chat again soon.
Absolutely. Happy Easter, everybody, and stay safe.
You too. Awesome. Stephen Muehlhausen at S. Muehlhausen Jr. will wrap the hour next on the second level.
Pushing the odds with Matt Perrault.
Jeff Theismann here on Pushing the Odds. How has quarantine?
God, I didn't realize it was that late. I'm sorry.
Important word that we can.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad I said something.
Yeah, me too.
I know it's everybody sort of.
It's in my own world.
I mean, it's like this is something we're not used to as a society. We move quite.
Make sure you're following 11 a.m. tomorrow.